right, Greg. So, yeah.
Completely lost track of time.
No, you're
there.
okay. Well, so we sorted out your boat and your anchor and stuff then.
And
So
my trampoline.
for this last 2 years?
It's just doing stuff wrong. And I was trying to explain to you that, say, for instance, I was setting up a trampoline and I was trying to pull the mat to the spring. You get a wee handle and you pull on the mat.
Yeah.
And then I was using my other hand to try and extend the spring over the mat, but the handle pulls the spring.
So you were pulling the mat rather than
But
the
that's
spring.
because I don't read the instructions, you see.
Well, see, that's
I
what...
refuse to read instructions because it's a defeat.
Yeah, well...
Are you good at reading instructions?
No, not really, no. To be truthful, no, I don't. Well, you think you... No, but there's always... Do you know what I mean? Those flat packs are like... There's nothing easy about them. Once you do it once, say if you had to put a wardrobe up...
100%.
Do you
but
know...
if you read the instructions, how easy would it be? Easier.
So we just think we're great, don't we?
I just throw them in the box.
With that, not a bother, and you have 50 screws left over. They're spares.
It's bad though when you have a full panel.
But
left
do
over.
they actually ever leave spares in them flat pack things?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I put together a barbecue, and it was like a double barbecue, and it was quite unique in that there was no two parts of the barbecue attached together. Nothing. It was completely.
Where did you buy this one from?
I can't remember where I got it from. But no, but
So it's complicated.
there was nothing attached to something else.
Right.
And I had so many parts left over, but it's worked quite well.
Yeah. The burger's all right?
The burgers are all right. The smell of gas is quite concerning. But other than that,
be careful with that one.
Don't. Why do you always feel you have to be so sensible?
What's your gas is very... Do you know what I mean?
No, it is, but it's a joke.
Well, some people might think that's not funny, Greg.
Well, obviously, a lot of people think I'm not funny. I can't be used to that.
Well, from time to time you are. Come here, better let you go.
Enjoy your Wednesday, Lee.
All right, cheers.
All right, it is the 9 till noon show, and it is 9 o'clock. Time for a news update, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty. Hi, Donna Marie.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The mother of a Donegal soldier who was killed in Lebanon is to sue the United Nations in the Irish courts. Sean Rooney from Newton Cunningham died after a convoy he was in came under fire in December of 2022. RTE reports that his mother, Natasha Rooney, has started legal proceedings against the Defence Forces, the Minister for Defence in Ireland, and the Attorney General over the death of her son. Almost 5,000 students in Donegal are to sit their state examinations today. It's estimated that 2,652 will begin their junior cert, 2,072 will start their leaving cert, and 223 are to undergo the leaving cert applied exams in around half an hour's time across the county. The number of candidates is up 3% on last year's national figure of 136,000. Education Minister Helen McEntee says while students should work hard at their exams, there's always other options.
Really, this is an important time for young people, but at the same time it's important that they know there are so many different avenues and routes and pathways for them to achieve ultimately whatever it is they want to achieve at the end of the day. But again, I just want to wish the many thousands of students who will be doing their exams the very best of luck.
A woman who received an apology from the HSE over errors in her smear test results says she was determined to get answers. 38-year-old Leona Mackin was diagnosed with late-stage cervical cancer in 2023 after previous smears in 2016 and 2020 were wrongly reported as normal. An apology from the HSE was read in the High Court yesterday, and the Health Service agreed to pay an undisclosed amount in damages. The mother of two says it was important for her and her family to fight for the truth.
I knew that I'd never had any abnormalities, and I was kind of thinking, how did I go from a normal smear in 2020 to now cancer in 2023? It just didn't add up in my head, So, I thank God I did start asking questions because, I don't know would I've ever found this out, and, how many women probably never knew, that there was abnormalities or anything.
The European Commission says it stands ready to retaliate after Donald Trump doubled tariffs on imported steel and aluminium. It's risen from 25% to 50% overnight, and a move that will badly impact a number of industries. Europe says it strongly regrets the move while negotiations with the US on tariffs are continuing. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says they're open to making tailor-made deals.
Each country has unique advantages, unique challenges to it based on their markets and what they export to us and what we export to them. And so that's why the president smartly advised his trade team to engage in tailor-made deal making. And we saw that with the United Kingdom.
Looking now to weather, turning cloudy this morning as a band of organised showers spread from the northwest before becoming well scattered this afternoon and easing towards evening. Highest temperatures of 11 to 14 degrees. That's all for now from the news desk. Back with more at 10 o'clock.
Fuiara bhí Jane shocked blin a dísh. Bhí Lewis Losrock faoin na rother agus bhí a gruig chomín le gruig maid na mara. Thug mamo agad dí dá brethal a chur na leabhar savála. Tá rún ag Jane agad a hábháil le haid rudí tábhachtach amach an seo, ar nós éon bhanach a cheannach. Có Lewis a chosíonn tú ag sábháil agad, mohíonn tú go maith. Le breis agus céad blian, tá cuigilte stáit na hhéireann ag ceir le daoine agad a hábháil, cuma céimhéad agad agus cuma cén tacharama. Fáid tuile ólis ag de ifig faoi stáitiúil nó cuirdaigh cuigilte stáit na hhéireann. Cuigilte stáit na hhéireann. Is mothúcán má é. Termí agus cunílaga a bhain.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's Greg Hughes here with you for the next 3 hours. Caroline Orr and Shannon Wilkins on the show as well, taking your calls and WhatsApps and texts. Now, if you want to WhatsApp or text us, 08660 25,000, 08660 25,000. We had hundreds of texts yesterday that we didn't get through. We will try and do so today. You can also email us on, that's how you call us, 07491 25,000. Phone lines still be really busy, which is great. And you can also email comments at highlandradio.com. And if you want to watch the show's pretty visual. Most of our guests, you can see them online as well, just like you might expect. Go to the YouTube app, which is good if you want to watch at home on your smart TV or your Fire Stick on Highland Radio Ireland. We're on the X platform as well. On the X platform, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have finally fallen out. I thought it would take about a month or two, but it's taken in excess of a year. Elon Musk has really attacked Donald Trump, not by name, but his big, beautiful bill, which raises America's debt ceiling to, I suppose you could say, seemingly unsustainable levels. But Elon Musk finally has turned on Donald Trump, which is kind of interesting. It's a bit of a sort of a global soap opera that I've been following overnight. Not overnight, but, late last night and early this morning. But anyway, listen, we're going to focus on other stuff. Obviously, lots of bits and bobs for you, local, national, international, stuff that relates to us, and we'll have a bit of business news later and so much more besides. Wellness Wednesday as well too, so hopefully some interesting information in that. And let's look at the newspapers this morning. The Finn Valley Voice, well, they are covering the big story from yesterday. Over 170 hospital doctors and GPs across Donegal have urgently addressed a letter to the Health Minister expressing deep concern that their hospital is being demoted once again. The letter sent by clinicians at Letterkenny University Hospital and local general practitioners to Minister for Health Jennifer Carroll McNeill warns that plans to establish a surgical hub intended to reduce waiting times for public patients in Sligo instead of Donegal will further disadvantage residents of Donegal. And that decision is a long way down the line and it will be hard to be undone. But as we heard yesterday on the show, 170 odd GPs and more, I'm sure, who are opposed to this decision. There's unanimity amongst the elected TDs. All of them believe that this is a decision that must be reversed. And the pressure now is on Jennifer Carroll McNeill, who, just to recap, has yet to actually receive the official business plan to state that such a hub should be located in Sligo and not one in Letterkenny. So, I mean, I think it doesn't have to be an either or, it can be both, can't it? But anyway, we are back in contact with the Minister's office this morning to see if she's available for comment. Of course, she's not available as we speak. We shall see. On to the newspapers now. On to the national newspapers now. We'll go to the Irish Times. And the state's efforts to investigate the murder of Dennis Donaldson in Glenties are simply not working, and a statutory inquiry is needed, a spokesperson of family has said. The Donaldsons want a cross-border process that would identify not just who pulled the trigger, but also who may have pulled the strings, said family solicitor Enda McGarity. Donaldson was a former IRA member who worked in the Sinn Féin Stormont offices. He was shot dead in April 2006 after public disclosure in December of 2005 that had been made sorry, let me just read that again. He was shot in 2006 after public disclosure in December 2005 that he had been an informer for 20 years for MI5 and PSNI Special Branch. Former Sinn Féin leader Gerry Adams last week won a defamation case against the BBC arising from a programme where an anonymous man was quoted as saying the IRA murdered Donaldson and the Mr Adams would have sanctioned the killing, a claim Mr Adams denied, and of course his denial was backed up by the courts. On to the Irish Daily Mail now, and a woman who spent 17 years on death row in the US before later being released has died in a house fire in County Galway. Sonny Jacobs, who was in her late 70s, died after a fire broke out at her property in Glennick Castle shortly after 6 a.m. yesterday. County Galway man Kevin Kelly, aged in his early 30s, also died in the blaze. He's understood to have been a carer for Ms. Jacobs. Gardaí and forensic teams are now investigating the incident. However, from initial inquiries, the fire does not seem to have been started maliciously. Now, of course, Miss Jacobs would be familiar with Donegal. She married Peter Pringle, who was also a campaigner and also someone who served time and was exonerated. So as I say, there's a very strong angle, Donegal angle to that, but fundamentally, or first and foremost, a very sad passing for that lady and the person who was her carer. Right, on to the Irish Independent this morning. And school-aged children are now less likely to abuse cannabis, they're less likely to get drunk, they're less likely to smoke or indulge in fizzy drinks, which is great news, isn't it? But they are more prone to being mentally low and under pressure from schoolwork, according to a new report. The Health Behaviour in School Children Trends Report 1998 to 2022 provides a mixed picture of 10 to 17-year-olds who are more clean living and less susceptible to bad habits, but mentally more fragile and under stress from studies, as well as a greater risk of being bullied. I think, that's probably a description of children that many people can recognise. Key trends show that smoking among 10 to 17-year-olds fell to 4.7% in 2022. That's down from 22.6% in 1998. Reports of having ever been drunk declined from 33% in 1998 to 17.8% in 22. Cannabis use in the last year dropped to 6.5% in 2022 compared with 12.3% in 1998. However, the findings also revealed that 46.3% of children report feeling low weekly or more often, double the figure from 1998. And why is that? I think it's a lot of doom scrolling. I was, when I was younger, somewhat insulated, from the stuff that was going on in the world. As an adult, I can choose sort of when and where I consume my news or whatever it might be. I think nowadays young people open up the phone and they just doom scroll. Everything is negative. They're exposed to conversations about their gender, their sexuality, their mental health. They're looking at people who appear to be absolutely stunningly beautiful and ripped, but they're, images of models that have been artificially sort of enhanced and what have you. And it's an awful lot of pressure I didn't have to go through. I don't know about you. So I'd say, doom scrolling and societal pressures are really adding to the mental pressures of younger people. Sometimes you hear people saying, oh, well, they're a bit soft, But when you're exposed to all of that stuff, it's hard to be resilient in the face of it all. And I wonder maybe if we need to try and find some space for them to have a break from the pressures of the world that most of us were, as I say, somewhat insulated from when we were younger. We're not doing it purposely. It's just they're exposed to it all. On to the Daily Star now, and Micheál Martin has welcomed news. The mum of an Irish peacekeeper killed in Lebanon has been given permission to sue the UN. Sean Rooney, 24, was killed when a convoy of Irish troops serving with the UN peacekeeping force was ambushed and fired upon on December 14th, 2022. The shooting happened near the town of Al-Abijah in the south of Lebanon, a stronghold of Hezbollah. Private Rooney from Newtown Cunningham in Donegal was a member of the 121st Infantry Battalion of the Defence Forces. His mother, Natasha, was granted permission yesterday by the High Court in Dublin to sue the UN. The Taoiseach said Natasha Rooney has gone through a terrible trauma in respect of the murder of her son Sean, and we await the outcome of the trial in Lebanon. We've been very unhappy at the pace in which the trial has taken place. It's been slow and we're looking for full accountability. So we'll try and get more details of the rationale behind Sean Rooney's mum taking that action and what they hope to achieve a little later on, perhaps. The Sun this morning, police yesterday sifted through old barns as they launched a hunt for traces of Madeleine McCann. I mentioned this yesterday. This while the prime suspect confirmed plans to go into hiding on his release. A well was also dredged in a desperate search for vital DNA that could help investigators finally bring charges in the 18-year mystery. She's been missing for 18 years. Unbelievable. Just hours earlier, German paedophile Christian Bruckner piled fresh pressure on authorities by confirming he would go to ground if freed from prison. It comes amid mounting fears the 48-year-old could be released as early as September, then disappear, damaging hopes for the Madeleine case to come to court. I am sure tabs will be kept on him. I think that's a bit of dramatic reporting in terms of him going to ground and disappearing. It's very hard to disappear in this day and age. And finally, I didn't get to see this last night for reasons beyond my control. I don't know if you watched the shocking RTE documentary. It went undercover in 2 nursing homes and shows residents crying out for help, left in soiled clothes and being incorrectly handled. Over the past 8 weeks, the public broadcaster has been investigating care at 2 nursing homes run by MS Ireland, formerly OPIA, the largest private nursing home provider in the country. It has 27 homes here with capacity for 2,400 residents. Following concerns by whistleblowers, RTE had 2 undercover researchers and healthcare workers apply for and secure jobs at separate nursing homes run by the company. Researchers got extensive footage from the residents, Portlaoise, County Laois, and Benavon Manor in Glasnevin, Dublin. In Portlaoise, a woman was left stranded on a toilet by a new carer who had gone on her break. Harrowing footage shows the woman saying, "Don't leave me now, oh my God," as she has a broken call bell. A nurse then comes to her help as the terrified resident tells her she was ringing and ringing and ringing. Later, speaking about the carer, she says, "She never came back. I'm here on my own. It was terrible." The nurse then told her, "Don't worry," but proceeded to clean the woman's hands with her own shirt. In another instant, a man waited 25 minutes to use the bathroom as he said he was in terrible pain and very full. Consultant geriatrician Professor Ronan Collins, who took part in the documentary, said, "I don't want to be melodramatic and say that it amounts to institutional abuse of people, but clearly if people are suffering because they want to go to the toilet and they're faced with the choice of being incontinent in the chair, not being taken to the toilet due to staffing levels, that's very, very, very poor care of people." And it actually breaks my heart to think that this could be happening anywhere. It really does, but particularly to our older people in places that we trust, that we expect them to get the absolute best of care. Certainly not to be left in those situations. I don't know if you have any reaction to that programme or any experiences that you wish to speak of. Hopefully it's confined to the premises that were scrutinised. 086 60 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text number, 086 60 25,000, or call us on 074 91 25,000.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves, Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Raise funds for your charity with RSS Promotions. Enjoy a thrilling live night at the races with real jockeys, not DVDs, the only one in Ireland. Plus the Cube lip sync battles and more. Fun, interactive entertainment for all. Book now via RSS Promotions on Facebook or call 087 237 1478.
Celebrate summer this week at Centra with their amazing summer sizzler offers. Like selected barbecue meats, any 3 for €10. Buy 1 Dorito sharing bag and 1 Pepsi 2-litre bottle for €4 plus deposit. And selected Centra berries and grapes, any 2 for €5.50. Centra. Live every day.
TFI Local Link offers frequent, affordable and sustainable bus services. keeping rural communities in Ireland connected. Save up to 30% on fares when you use your TFI Leap card on eligible TFI local link services. For route and timetable information, visit transportforireland.ie.
Summer is sizzling, and so is the Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale, which has just been extended for a limited time only. Don't miss out on the sale of the season at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, or shop online at easylivingfurniture.co.uk.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture, luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6.2 million.
Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie.
The National Lottery. It could be you.
This Sunday is the 23rd Annual Vintage and Family Fun Day. Hundreds of vintage cars and tractors, wacky lawnmower racing, fashion show, and Ireland's top children's entertainer, Billy Bubbles. Plus, live in the marquee, it's Michaela Harkin. That's at the Inishowen Vintage Weekend, Carrickfield, Moville.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now is 19 minutes past 9. Now, a moderately strong 5.8 magnitude earthquake struck in Turkey on Tuesday. The tremor happened at 2:17 a.m. Eastern European time, about 3 miles south of Ismail, Turkey. Data from the agency shows. Rachel Akok is with us. She's in Turkey on holiday. Good morning to you, Rachel. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
I don't know if you can help me on the pronunciation of where this epicenter was. Ikmeler, is it, I wonder?
There's actually a place called Ishmael.
That's it, Ishmael.
I'm
I
told
think you're right.
that the actual epicenter was around 10 kilometres from Marmaris, which is a big city in the southwest of Turkey.
Right, okay. So did you feel the earthquake? What was it like?
It was most bizarre, Greg. The only way to describe it is very bizarre, because you hear about earthquakes, you never think you're actually going to feel the sensation of one. And I was lying in my bed at around 2:17 in the morning and was woken up with this sensation of the bed swaying side to side. And I had always imagined in an earthquake situation that you would be shaking up and down and vibrating, but it was actually more like a rocking sensation. And initially I thought I was having a dream, obviously, and then I realized, oh dear, there's something going on here, and opened my eyes and I could see the lampshade was swaying from side to side, and I felt like I was in a boat rocking on the sea in the bed. That's what it felt like.
And do you instantly know it's an earthquake, or do you put it down to anything else? Obviously it's all subjective, but I'm just wondering what goes through your mind in that moment.
It was frightening once the realization dawned on me. But as I say, you don't think you're ever going to feel what an earthquake feels like. And I've been coming to this region of Turkey for 20 to 30 years now. And I knew that there's a lot of seismic activity in this area, but I never thought I'd experience anything like that. So once my brain woke up and realized, oh dear, there's an earthquake happening, my initial thought was, oh God, how long is this going to last and how severe is it going to be? Because I was aware that this area doesn't get very severe earthquakes normally. But just very, very unusual sensation, I have to say.
And what kind of building is it that you're in, Rachel?
We're in our holiday home.
Okay.
My husband is actually Turkish, so we have a house here in a village, and it's not really in a tourist area. But luckily our house is made very strongly, so there's no damage whatsoever. And I have to say there's no major damage in the area at all. I believe there was only one fatality of a young teenager who actually panicked and jumped from a balcony out of panic.
Indeed.
And I think that was the only fatality as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, of those injured, 69 injuries, primarily all of them people jumping from buildings in panic. I suppose, if they're familiar with earthquakes and the potential consequences, you don't know what's going to happen next. in that moment, it must be a terrifying moment, isn't it? Do I risk getting buried in this building, or do I risk this jump? It's an awful situation to find yourself in.
It is, but I must stress now, as I said, there hasn't been a big quake here in this region of Turkey since 1957, and that one was around 7.1 on the Richter scale. So it's not on the same scale as the tragic one that happened in the east of Turkey. They have a lot of very small quakes here that you wouldn't even feel. But there's very seldom a big one. This would be the biggest one that has happened in this region in approximately 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, there wasn't any substantial damage, so...
Is there any
yeah,
concern, Rachel, that this is a precursor? I don't know what the information locally is. This is sort of like a one and done, or could this lead to something more severe? What's the feeling on the ground?
Well, this area runs on a fault line. So there's a fault line going from around here to Rhodes in Greece. But as I say, there's never usually a major quake in this area, and there can sometimes be little aftershocks, like waves of aftershock that come, because when the plates shift under the sea, as they did in this instance, I believe it was about 65 kilometres below the seabed and about 10 kilometres out to sea that this happened. So there can be small aftershocks, but nobody is very concerned in the area because they're usually smaller than the main earthquake, and because it didn't do any significant damage at all. I mean, the only risk is for people panicking, as we said, somebody might panic and do something rash.
Yeah, really sad. Okay, Rachel, listen, thanks so much for the insight. Do you split your time between home and Turkey now, or...?
No, I'm mainly based just outside Letterkenny, but because we have the home here, we come out as much as we can, yes.
Of course, okay. Listen, thanks so much. Glad to hear you're safe. Glad to hear the population there locally is safe. Of course, our thoughts are with the young girl and her family who very sadly perished, but glad to hear that for the most part, the population is safe. Thank you.
You're very welcome,
right.
Greg.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. That is Rachel there, who is a Letterkenny resident, but lives over in Turkey, or holidays in Turkey, with her husband, and was in her bed 2:17 a.m. when it began to shake. And interesting how she described it, sort of a left to right motion, like a swaying boat, rather than the up and down that you might expect. Right, now, let us go to some comments, because yesterday, no I don't, yesterday we had Isabel in from the Donegal Hospice, of course, to help launch Jive for June, and don't forget to tune in to the David James Show, Jive Time, at 4 o'clock every day for your chance to hear more about the initiative, but also to get involved. I just wanted to catch up on some comments, because that was just right at the end of the show. Well done to Isabel and the staff in the hospice on all the good work you do, and best of luck with Jiving for June. That comes in from Breed. Another, as a family, we thought of hospice as end-of-life care, when in fact my mum went in and out a number of times before she was in need of end-of-life care. Thanks for helping us make that point, because there is that sense, and for many people that's what it is, but it's not exclusively that. Best of luck for Jive for June 25 from Orla and Mark Neely from the Tony Tractor Run. They raised €40,000 for the hospice. Well done, guys. Massive congrats to Isabel and all the Donegal Hospice on the Jive for June. Great success, a very worthy cause, and helped so many. Best of luck this year. And indeed, they're not resting on their laurels. They've raised massive amounts of money through Jive for June and want to keep that momentum going this year. But that all relies on your generosity out there. Well done, Isabel and team. Such an amazing achievement for the Donegal Hospice. Congratulations. Jacqueline and Rafo text that one in. Well done to Isabel and team. Isabel is such an inspiration of a woman and puts her heart and soul into everything she does for the Donegal Hospice and fundraising events, and has touched the heart of many family and patients within the Donegal Hospice and the local community. Lots of love, Carol and Connor McCready in Carrigans. Isabel helped me out a few years ago when she was brilliant and so easy to talk to. She is a star. That comes in from Caroline Murray in Mount Charles. What a fantastic amount raised by Isabel for hospice. Great achievement. Well done, everyone involved. That's what was the figure? She says 2-point-something million raised since its inception only a few short years ago. Good luck, Isabel, and best wishes from Teresa. And last one, just for now, all the best to Isabel Doherty in the Donegal Hospice with the Jive for June and the amazing amount she's raised last year from all in County Dry Cleaners. Well done, guys. Thanks very much indeed for that. Right. Hi, Greg, says a listener. I just wanted to say how the venue was picked for the Donegal versus Mayo game. Yes, this is a little bit controversial, isn't it? This game is meant to be in a neutral venue. However, we now find this is not the case, considering how close it is to Mayo. A really poor decision by GEA. This should have been fixed for Kingspan Brethny in Cavan. And it's a 4 p.m. throw-in on a Sunday as well, on a school day potentially. It's, obviously, the throw-in time has been, I think, probably dictated to by television. You know, I presume RTE want to show that game, and they've pushed it back to 4. But dependent on where you are in Donegal, it's a very, very long journey, and fans will want to be there too because it potentially is a really quite important game. Have you a feeling on the time of the game, its venue? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. We can't change it, but I suppose we can have our views on it. Last one just before a break. The overspend alone on the National Children's Hospital would build 24 surgical hubs at €60 million each, which it is claimed they will cost at present. The longer this is delayed, like the defective concrete blocks issue, will mean costs will double, then treble, as seems to be the trend here in Ireland. Right, we had some communications from a listener and I committed to get a response, and we have. Well, I haven't, Caroline did. I'm waiting on an appointment for my daughter to see a dermatologist. She's been referred to Dr. McKenna in Sligo by Letterkenny, but that was over a year ago. Is there any update on this service returning to Letterkenny? So we made this inquiry and got the following response. The model for dermatology care in the Northwest has always been a service based from Sligo, and this remains the case. There's currently one consultant dermatologist in the Northwest. There are 2 permanent consultant posts that funding has been approved for, and recruitment has been actively ongoing. There are currently no suitable applicants for these posts. However, we continue to make every effort to fill the positions. I wonder why. Can you imagine having 2 funded positions and you can't actually attract them to Letterkenny? Dermatology is a challenging speciality nationally, they say. It's one of the 3 priority high-volume specialities in the waiting list action plan. In order to address the waiting lists for dermatology patients, HSE West and Northwest is utilising all available outsourcing capacity via HSE funding streams, which include Dermview, Kingsbridge, Derry, Belfast, and through outsourcing to the Bond Secure Hospital in Galway. This will deliver actively for patients in their own hospital facilities where possible. Lastly, LUH, in conjunction with Access to Care, have outsourced a number of patients in 24 and 25 who've obtained funding from the NTPF to support additional in-house initiative sessions. So that doesn't really answer the question. It tells us what they're trying to do to reduce the lists, but it doesn't really directly address the concerns, other than to say there is no planned return of the service to Letterkenny, but maybe you might be contacted to say that you can get it somewhere else through the NTPF. We shall see. I'm sorry if that's not as much use as it could have been.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Planning holidays, creating memories. Atlantic Travel on Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny bring you today's 9 till noon show. See atlantictravel.ie.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up, fresh colour for your walls, or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
As a brown bin kitchen caddy, I'm mad for munching scraps. Bits of meat, mouldy bread, back of the fridge fruit. Nice. But when little pieces of metal, glass or plastic sneak in, it affects my waistline. Listen, I'm not blaming anyone. You're brilliant at brown binning and minimising your food waste. But do me a favour, don't put the wrong items in the brown bin. Have a scan of mywaste.ie so you can keep it fantastic. Brought to you by My Waste, a Government of Ireland initiative.
We love better value at Dunnes Stores, where you'll find big savings on everything you need for your little ones. Choose from a great selection of Malupa cereals and Johnson's bedtime and bath products, now half price. And mix and match any 3 for €30 on jumbo packs of Pampers, nappies and pants. That's just €25 when you use a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Celebrate your love at Encourage Hotel, nestled in the heart of Donegal. With breathtaking views of Errigal Mountain and elegant surroundings, our venue offers the perfect setting for your special day. Experience exceptional service and create unforgettable memories. Discover more at encouragehotel.com.
Rossview Interiors are delighted to offer a limited quantity of sofas just in at unbeatable knockdown prices, with suites reduced from €2,050 to €1,250 and corner suites from just €1,350. There's also storage beds reduced from €650 to €450 and huge savings on a selected range of dining sets. So make your way to Rossview Interiors, Rossview Business Park, Letterkenny, just off the Polestar roundabout, as these bargains won't last.
Now, the Irish Natra Hill Farmers Association has voiced their concerns about the government's plans to purchase land for national parks, particularly regarding the potential impact on farmers. The government has indicated that it will continue to acquire land to expand national parks and support nature restoration. We're joined on the programme by vet Dr. Gerard Rorty. Gerard, thank you very much for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
What's your reaction to this ongoing initiative by the government?
I think we need a debate. I'm an environmentalist at heart, and I'm also a farmer. And we have incredible assets in the country in our national parks. Donegal, and don't think Donegal people realise how proud we should be of the national park and how incredibly well managed it is. People are very aware of Glenveigh Castle and they go down and do a wee hike around the grounds. But the vast wilderness that you have in 16,000 hectares across the centre of Donegal is absolutely fantastic. And absolute credit to National Parks and Wildlife as to how they manage it. But we need to take a wee step back and have more of a debate as to why we are changing our constitution without holding a referendum, and why the Fianna Fáil party decided to leave its core principle, which was to settle as many families on the land as possible. So we go right back to 1935. I worked in the Rathcarn and the Gibbstown Gaeltachts in May 30 years ago, where there were a lot of people from Gweedore who'd been brought up, along with Connemara people and Kerry people, and brought up to settle in Meath, to farm in Meath, to give a vision to Dave Valera's objective to have as many people on the land as possible. And we have in Article 42.5 the wording that there may be settled on the land as many families as is practical. And yet Micheál Martin in 2023 abolished that core principle of Fianna Fáil without actually saying it. I know from talking to a lot of Fianna Fáil people in Donegal, there was a lot of disquiet. We're very unhappy with them because he said, even though it will cause tension, the state should start buying land for rewilding. And I think there has to be a debate. I'm not coming down firmly one way or the other on it, but it amazes me that, when we have changed the constitution on anything else, we've had a referendum, we've had a debate, we've had yes and we've had no. And, there is impact. There's an impact from the point of view of what does it do to a young farmer who wants to get on the ladder and wants to start farming. I talked just this morning to one of the leading farm auctioneers in Donegal, who told me that for any hill farm he has for sale in Donegal, he would have maybe a dozen young girls or boys who want to start farming and sees that as a ladder and a way to actually get on the farming way of vocation or model in life, because there's so little land in Ireland sold. We have very little land mobility. The average farm in Ireland is sold once every 400 years. So I can see where Vincent Roddy and the INHA is coming from and saying, why has the government just decided, without any debate at all, to start spending millions and millions, I think there's $1 billion allocated, But more interestingly, and this goes back to the famous bicycle shed up at the Dial and the famous wall spent for a fortune, the Department of Housing are paying roughly double the asking price for these pieces of land. So if you look at the reviews of some of the valuations for the bits that they've bought in Kerry, they've gone out and paid actually double for what the ground was marketed.
Of course, then that's bound to have an impact then on land value, or would it only impact land value that's adjacent to national parks?
No, it has an overall impact on land value. And naturally enough, and someone like myself who's a landowner is going to be rubbing their hands and saying this is fantastic.
No, because you won't sell it.
But you also look from the point of view, Greg, it's a bit like the housing crisis. If you take houses out of circulation, then there's less 2 and 3 bedrooms. So what you're doing is, if you're going to take less land out of circulation, then there's going to be less land available to farm, and that is a knock-on effect. Take for the sake of argument, the guys trying to survive farming in the lagging, milking cows, they need more land because of derogation, the nitrates derogation. So they are now going to be in competition with people who are outbid for land, marginal land in the hills. So there's a debate that needs to be had as to whether or not the state should be interfering with the land market, and whether we need more national parks. Now, I'm not for a moment criticising the fantastic work the NPWS does on the national parks that we have at the moment.
But is it not the case too, Jared, though, we need to establish where we're going? What is the plan? What's the impact of this in 10, 20, 30 years' time? How are we going to accommodate farmers or new farmers or aspiring farmers? Or do we have no intention? You see, the problem is people might feel we have no intention of that we will continue to invest in data centres. They'll continue to draw our power. We will extend, Donegal into an effective entire national park. And whatever is left, we'll stick solar panels on. Like, if that's the plan, let us know. Let's have a chat. But, what part of an overall plan is this strategy a part of?
Well, it's very obvious from Micheál Martin that Fianna Fáil have decided, well, certainly Micheál Martin has decided, and as he said, it'll cause tensions, it's going to cause controversy, but his priority is rewilding and biodiversity. His priority no longer seems to be to establish young farmers on the land. And yet the supreme irony is that by 2050, we'll have 10 billion people on the planet. And with climate change, we're going to have very little temperate zones to grow vegetation, to produce animal protein. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that most of Europe is burning up during the summer. They're hitting 40 degrees, and areas of France, areas of Spain, areas of the Netherlands that used to be able to graze cattle throughout the summer are having to bring their cattle in. In Italy, they're having to bring the cattle in and give them cold showers. So we're going to have the supreme irony that by 2050, we are probably going to be the most suitable place in the world to grow vegetation, to produce livestock. And then with Micheál Martin saying that, no, we want to buy all this up for a national park. Now, what I would be saying in response is that we want more national parks, but we want more national parks similar to the national park they have in Cumbria, a living, real, live one like we have around the Lake District, managed by the National Trust, where farmers continue to farm in conjunction with the National Trust, working towards biodiversity, water quality, carbon sequestration, but with the objective of keeping the people on the land. So that's the debate we have to have. Do we want, west of the O'Donnell and McCool Park, one big national park, or do we want people continue to farm in those areas?
But also, too, I think, and a note from some comments from the Fianna Fáil Minister of State at the Department of Housing, Christopher O'Sullivan, that, farmers aren't getting the credit they deserve as well for, the care and attention they give the land. That there's so much, vibrant greenery and what have you all across the country, but that's been down to farmers over generations, not a couple of NGOs that are Johnny-come-latelys that are talking about, repurposing the land and to be the saviours of our environment.
Totally, and fantastic work done in the University of Aberystwyth and SRUC in Scotland have shown that the best way to manage the uplands, like Donegal for biodiversity, is to graze them with a combination of cattle and sheep. So if you want to get the key objectives when they talk about biodiversity and water quality, it's not actually just to abandon the land, it's to actually have farmers manage it in a controlled fashion as conservation grazers. Because one of the big challenges that you have is that to obtain what, Micheál Martin was talking about, rewilding and a natural succession of a woodland habitat and so on, which they're doing very successfully in Glenveigh, requires massive resources. You can't just take a bit of a chunk of the blue stacks or derivatives and say, well, we're going to allow that ground to rewild. It's not going to rewild. And the reason it's not going to rewild is we have such a high deer population, is the deer are going to come in and they're going to graze out any sapling.
Yeah, but in fairness, in their 100-year plan, they're factoring that in. They recognise that to develop Glenveigh, they wish to. They have to get rid of a lot of, non-native trees. They're not naive, like they know.
No, I totally agree, Greg. And Glenveigh, and I'm not for a moment criticising Glenveigh. Glenveigh are developing roughly 10% of the national park with that in mind, and they have the resources to do that. But I'm just taking us back to the point that you made on the bigger debate. We're quite happy to have Glenveigh where it's at. But the big debate is, do we, because Micheál Martin has said that effectively he wants the west of Ireland turned into one great big national park, do we accept that we've just abandoned a part of the Constitution, which is that we should have as many families farming the land as practical? And why have we just adopted that without having a debate? As I said, on all the other constitutional issues, we've had massive debates, massive discussions. Is this where we're going? Is this what's best for the environment? Is this what's best for the human population? Is this best for food production? On this particular one, it just seems to be a case of, well, there's $1 billion to go off and start buying land.
I think there might be some indifferences to the future of farming in this country, ladders for young farmers, etc., and that's one conversation. I think everyone, though, should certainly have an interest in our food security and how independent we are. We don't know what's going to happen in this world at the moment. Look at Britain and Russia to and froing in terms of building their armies and who will or won't, launch something or other on each other. What about our independence? We've seen quite quickly in bad weather how quickly food can run out here. And we've seen farmers having to step up in many different environments to bail us out. Like, we really need to be careful here that we are we are as best as possible able to feed and water ourselves. We don't know what's coming down the lines.
Well, it's more in terms of, I agree totally, but it's also in terms of using this fantastic natural resource that we have, which are the uplands of Ireland. So if you go back 200-300, if you go back pre-famine, those hills and mountains were black with cattle that were being grazed, and with transhumance and cattle being moved to bullion huts. And, and we talk about, I mentioned the national park. Well, the national park sustained 250 people grazing black cattle before the evictions of John George of Adair. But if you take it to today's situation in Donegal, the potential of those uplands to produce protein, produce cattle and sheep is phenomenal. And it's probably underutilized. But I go back to climate change. What's coming down the line is that there are going to be less and less areas of the world able to produce the vegetation with the rainfall and with the suitable climate that we have. Now, if you take it all out to create massive tracts of national park, who in future years, when we say we need that protein, is going to be able to step in?
But I get you. But the reality is though, Jared, especially as we approach 2030, we know we're going to miss our reduction targets by a country mile, right? And the soft target on that is going to be the farming community. Despite their best efforts to farm in better ways, it's not going to be cars, it's not going to be trucks, it's not going to be public transport. No one will want to talk about aeroplanes, and no one will want to talk about the massive drain on our power infrastructure by, data centers. Coming to 2030, the mood will be directed negatively towards farmers because they are the low-hanging fruit. So to try and talk of increasing our cattle numbers or grazing in our uplands, it seems fantastic, but everything that's going to come between now and 2030 is going to be an attack on farmers and what they do and how they produce food. So, in other words, we're going to be shifting, I believe, as this decade progresses, further away from where you believe we should be going.
Well, that to an extent is true, but the reality, Greg, is the uplands of Donegal are grazed. So they're either grazed by farmers grazing them with sheep and cattle, or they're grazed by red deer. The land just doesn't lie totally idle. I mean, we have a massive red deer population in Donegal. And one of the discussions that we need to have as well in terms of, the proposals of national park and rewiden is what are we going to do about bovine TB? The deer population in Wicklow sitting with a TB incidence of around 16%. We are very fortunate in Donegal it hasn't spread.
Can I ask you a question just in relation to that? Our policy to deal with, and you're the vet, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be to eliminate as much as we can of the badger population. Yet, whilst we're doing that, it doesn't seem to be the TB seems to be in the cattle. Even so, we're killing the badgers, okay, but there still seems to be a steady level of TB in the cattle herds. Are we approaching that wrong?
Well, that's another day's debate.
Sorry about that. It's just as soon as you mentioned TB, I thought I should ask.
A very quick summary, and I'll give you a very quick summary of bovine TB. The problem with bovine TB eradication is we are using a test that's absolutely useless. We're using a test that was pioneered over 50 years ago, where the sensitivity, and what I mean is false negatives, is very poor, and the specificity is very poor. The problem with the TB test is that when a farmer has 100 cattle tested, some of the cattle that could be positive aren't positive at all. Some of the cattle that may be negative mightn't be negative at all. And we have never invested the resources to develop a test that's going to be accurate enough. So if you don't even have the confidence of the vets, and vets have no confidence in that TB test, and you certainly don't have the confidence of the farmers, forget the badgers, that's a very minor. Our main problem is that our test is totally inaccurate. Now, we could have a long term, if we're prepared to spend a few million on developing a proper blood test, we may potentially be able to control the disease. We will never, ever, ever eradicate the disease because it's endemic in our wildlife, in our badger and in our deer. So that's a quick summary on bovine TB. We're going nowhere bovine TB. For the optics and for the propaganda, we'll say we have an eradication program. We don't. We have a control program that's based on a test that goes any, mini, many, mo. It might have TB, it might not have TB.
Wow. Okay. Listen, thanks for the clarity in relation to that. And it doesn't take away your wider point. And I think anyone who's got any interest in the Constitution should definitely explore what you've been talking about, how whether or not we should have a wider conversation about the future of our country and agriculture and all that type of stuff. Thanks so much for helping us spark that conversation, Dr. Gerard Rorty. Take care of yourself.
Thanks,
appreciate
Greg.
your time as always. That is vet Dr. Gerard Rorty. Back with more after these.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves. Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Print Supplies and Frosses delivers managed print solutions that save you time and money. With remote servicing and local support, we take the hassle out of printers and photocopiers. Stay efficient, stay supplied. Email sales@printsupplies.ie today. Print smart, save money, trust local.
That's the Clear Mobile Parrot. He knows a good thing when he hears it, because it's only $12.99. Yes, only $12.99 for unlimited 5G data and calls. Yes, there are texts, and that's why he's our top salesperson. A parrot. $12.99. Clear Mobile. Keep it clear. Powered by Vodafone. $12.99. Activation fee €12.99. 19 gigabytes UK and EU roaming data. For terms, see clearmobile.ie/terms.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. Have you got your Euro Millions ticket yet?
Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie.
The National Lottery. It could be you.
Books a bit messy? Payroll giving you headaches? Big Red Cloud, in partnership with Donegal Education and Training Board, is offering free online training courses in bookkeeping and payroll. Perfect for small business owners, startups or even accountants looking to support their clients. The courses are flexible, certified and designed for real-world needs. Visit bigredcloud.com/training to sign up. Free, certified and at your own pace. Brought to you by Donegal ETB.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Turning cloudy this morning as a band of organised showers spread from the northwest before becoming well scattered this afternoon and easing towards evening. Temperatures 11 to 14 degrees. Cathal O'Curran is a touring musician and organiser of Skull Yivri Guidor, and he joins us on the programme now. Thanks for joining us, Cathal. How are you keeping?
Not too bad now, Greg, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Right, okay. Everything was going smoothly after a recent trip performing in Belgium, and then it kind of went south. What happened?
Yeah, I was flying from Brussels to Dublin on Sunday evening there, and when I arrived in Dublin, I found when my bouzouki or my instrument came out that it was cracked at the top of the neck. Now, it was in a hard case that was well padded, and has done hundreds of flights even over the past couple of years and never had any issue. And the case itself was fine. I always open it and check the instrument just to be sure. And this time there was a crack, unfortunately. So I went and filed a damaged baggage claim, as I was advised by somebody on the floor, and I was advised as well to make sure to post on social media. Sometimes it's hard to try and get compensation from the airlines and for them to take responsibility of the damage caused.
Yeah,
So,
because you did everything you could. It's in a very well protected case, both inside and externally. I mean, what would have to have happened to this case, I wonder, if there's no denting on the case and the bazookas, protected by padding inside? What must have happened to cause this damage?
There could be, I'd say, kind of two things that could have happened. It could have happened where if after I left it that somebody opened it on the inside and it could have dropped, or as well, sometimes when they're throwing bags, we've all seen baggage handlers throwing bags onto airlines and how roughly sometimes that they can be thrown.
So if it was travelling at speed and an immediate stop, even with all that protection, it could expose a weakness in it. Yeah, for sure. That sounds like the most probable.
Definitely, if it was thrown with that kind of force, or from a height, or something that's that have the force. Instruments are like bouzouki's and guitars are quite strong with their wood. But even with that kind of force, the whiplash of the wood will cause a crack or cause a break. Definitely.
I mean, this is an extension of you, really. Is it repairable? Because it's priceless, really. You can't replace it because it's irreplaceable. So is it repairable?
I know, and it's kind of when I started playing music professionally, it's one of the first like high quality, high end instruments that I bought. And luckily, once I arrived in Dublin, I called the maker of the instrument who made it for me, and I gave it to him. So he's looking after it at the minute, and he's going to see what he can do to repair it for me.
The thing is, there's a number of parties in here. There's you, there's the airline. The airline doesn't directly employ the baggage handlers, right? So they're not Aer Lingus staff as such. They're another company. So what has the interaction been with Aer Lingus like in terms of compensation or taking responsibility, or is it finger pointing?
So at the minute, I've actually not received anything from Aer Lingus at all. They said that there'd be an email sent out after the baggage claim. I called them again on Monday, and they said, no, wait till you get an email, and I've still not received anything. But after posting online and knowing other musicians that have had issues like this before, I'm not saying Aer Lingus in particular, but airlines would be more inclined to direct you towards the baggage handlers. But to be honest, if you're paying an airline to transport your bag from A to B, I think the onus, even if they do employ the baggage handlers to move those bags, the onus would be upon those airlines.
And it seems to be part of the trade as well. You must be the fourth or fifth or perhaps even sixth person that's had damage to a piece of equipment or it's been lost, and there's a premium. It's not, this is a service that they provide. Cathal, we'll make an inquiry with Aer Lingus as well. The impact that might have is just speeding up their contact with you. Who's to say? Hopefully now it's in the hand of experts now, and if anyone can fix it and leave it as it was, it's the people who made it originally, and we hope so that you can get back enjoying it again. But Cathal, thanks for helping us get the story out there.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Okay, that's Cathal O'Curran, touring musician and organiser of Skull Yivri Guidor. Some good news in relation to defective concrete blocks. Attic conversions and extensions for the purpose of housing older relatives could be exempt from planning before the end of the year. Habitable modular cabins in homeowners' gardens, along with the subdivision of dwellings, could also be permitted without planning permission under proposals that are currently being considered. Work on planning exemptions is now well advanced after 11 government departments, local authorities and planning bodies have given their views on the initiative. There's still a way to go, but that could be good news, and we'll find out a little later on in the show exactly how that might be good news. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned too for the news, and we'll also bring you the obituary notices.
Planning holidays, creating memories. Atlantic Travel on Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny bring you today's 9 till noon show. See atlantictravel.ie.
To the one who hums songs while walking,
or dreams quietly with big ideas.
This day is for you. It's called Crunoon and Oak, and on Saturday, June 7th,
over 1,000 free events will light up the country.
Paint your world with wonder walls.
Fly with Circus Explorers.
Step into the spotlight with Youth Theatre Ireland.
Unleash your creative spark.
Find an event near you.
See crinew.gov.ie
in partnership with RTE.
Doherty SuperValue Carndonna proudly supports local. Enjoy Simply Inish Foods, Inishowen Eggs and Donegal Bacon. Real local products, supporting real local jobs. Thanks for shopping local and backing community producers with every basket at Doherty SuperValue Carndonna.
Indulge yourself with friends or a loved one at the Spa at Orchids at the Holyrood Hotel in Bundoran. A midweek or weekend spa break is the perfect way to escape from life for a while. Take a leisurely walk along the Atlantic coast. Enjoy a dip in our private pool, a plunge in our Canadian hot tub, and treatments of your choice before dining in one of the Holyrood Hotel's acclaimed restaurants. The Spa at Orchids. Book now at holyroodhotel.com.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment. All have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney and Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Hegarty's Home Interiors in Buncrana is hiring a full-time furniture delivery driver, 32 to 38,000 euro per year. Responsibilities include nationwide deliveries, careful handling and assembly of furniture, and warehouse support. Applicants must hold a clean Irish driver's licence, be fluent in English, physically fit and customer-focused. 8-hour shifts, 5 days a week with some overtime and weekend work. Immediate start available. Apply via email info@hegartys.ie or drop your CV in store. Join a trusted brand with 70+ years of excellence.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. We could be a step closer to seeing a draft of the remediation of dwellings damaged by the use of defective concrete amendment bill today. The Minister for Housing is to seek Cabinet approval. The bill will have changes to make the scheme fairer, including having the increased scheme cap rates applying to all applicants who incurred costs since the 29th of March last year. The construction of a new dwelling side by side to that defective home will also be permitted in very limited circumstances for vulnerable families, which has long been lobbied for, particularly in the case of one family who have a daughter with specific mobility needs who were struggling to find suitable alternative accommodation. The mother of a Donegal soldier who was killed in Lebanon is to sue the United Nations in the Irish courts. Sean Rooney from Newton Cunningham died after a convoy he was in came under fire in December of 2022. RTE reports that his mother, Natasha Rooney, has started legal proceedings against the Defence Forces with the Minister for Defence in Ireland and the Attorney General over the death of her son. Almost 5,000 students in Donegal have begun their state examinations. It's estimated that 2,652 have begun their junior cert, 2,072 have started their leaving cert, and 223 are to undergo the leaving cert applied exams. The number of candidates is up by 3% on last year's national figure of 136,000. Education Minister Helen McEntee says it's important for students to remember there are supports available if they feel overwhelmed.
For some children, this might be a more stressful or anxious time than others. There's obviously different supports are being provided for students who may have learning difficulties, who might have physical impairments either. In fact, about a quarter of students sitting the exams this morning will have some kind of support or assistance in the exam or outside of the exam.
There are plans to speed up the delivery of almost 1,000 new prison spaces in a bid to deal with chronic overcrowding. The proposals will go before the Cabinet today. Emily Keegan reports.
The Justice Minister wants to create 960 extra prison spaces over the next 5 years to tackle the serious overcrowding problem in Irish jails. There's been an 11% jump in inmate numbers in the last year, with the country's prison capacity now operating at 115%. The old Cork prison will be demolished and rebuilt under the plans, creating 230 male and 100 female spaces. Castlereagh Prison will house an extra 150 prisoners, while Midlands Prison will see another 180. In Dublin, a new block for 100 prisoners will go up at Wheatfield. Mountjoy will see an extra 150 spaces made available, while the Docus Centre will have another 50 spaces for female inmates.
Police in Derry have launched a suspected arson investigation following a blaze in the early hours of yesterday morning. At around 2:10, a fire broke out on Lecky Road in an alleyway area. It's believed a metal cage containing gas cylinders was deliberately set alight, causing one of the cylinders to partially explode. The flames spread to a storeroom at the back of the property, forcing a resident of a flat nearby to flee for their safety after being alerted by neighbours. PSNI are asking anyone with information to come forward. Aid distribution centres in Gaza operated by the US and Israel will be closed today. It's after 27 people were reportedly killed by Israeli gunfire yesterday as they tried to get supplies. Israel claims it fired warning shots at people who weren't on the designated route. Claire Manarea works with the charity MSF based in the centre of the Gaza Strip. She says distribution sites are in the most dangerous places.
And the population have to travel an extremely long way to get there. And if they do arrive, then they are being shot at. If they survive that, then the people have to fight for the food. This means women and children, the disabled, the elderly, they have no chance.
Carlow's Fairgreen Shopping Centre has reopened this morning following the shooting there last weekend. However, the Tesco supermarket where the incident took place will remain closed. On Sunday, shots were fired in the store by 22-year-old Evan Fitzgerald. The young man was on bail for firearm charges and he subsequently took his own life. Looking out to weather, turning cloudy this morning as a band of organised showers spreads from the northwest before becoming well scattered this afternoon and easing towards the evening. Highest temperatures of 11 to 14 degrees. That's all for now from the news desk. Back with more at 11 o'clock. The obituary notices this Wednesday morning, June 4th. The death has occurred of Mary Ita Boyle ní O'Donnell of Glen Road Glanties, reposing at her late residence Glen Road Glanties today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m, rosary each night at 9 o'clock. Removal on Friday to St Connell's Church Glanties for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, with interment afterwards in the local cemetery. Funeral Mass will be live streamed on churchservices.tv. Family only on the morning of the funeral, family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if so desired to the Irish Cancer Society, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Susan Hamilton ní Craig, Manor Cunningham. Susan's remains will be reposing at her daughter Amanda's home in Rossbracken, Letterkenny, this morning from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. House is strictly private from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. today and tomorrow, and on the morning of the funeral. Rosary each night at 9 o'clock. Removal on Friday morning at 9:45 to Our Lady of Lourdes Church, Inch Island for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on YouTube Faha Parish. The death has taken place of Monsignor William McLaughlin, Father Billy, Ard finds Terry, Arda Ballyliffin. His remains will arrive at St Mary's Church, Cockhill today at 1 p.m. All are welcome to pay their respects today and tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. Funeral Mass will take place there at 11 a.m. on Friday morning, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Nazareth House, care of any family member or Kelly's funeral directors. The death has occurred of Robert William Stewart, known as Roy, Kelly Desert, Letterkenny. His remains are reposing at his home. House private to close family and friends only, please, this morning. Funeral prayers at his home this afternoon at 3:30, followed by burial in Gortley Cemetery. Everyone's welcome to attend the committal. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Parkinson's Society, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, funeral director. The death has taken place of James Jim Park, Glen McQuinn, Letterkenny, County Donegal. Remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there this afternoon at 12:15 for 1 p.m. service of Thanksgiving in St Eunan's Cathedral, Raphoe, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Family time on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu if desired to the Stroke Unit, Letterkenny University Hospital and St Eunan's Cathedral, Raphoe, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, funeral director. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio. Aidan's just missed the ice cream van and can hear the song fade into the distance. But it's no bother, as Mam stocked up for summer with Aldi's specially selected luxury Irish ice cream, Madagascan vanilla, for only $2.99. He's also been treated to delicious 100% Irish fresh strawberries. Ooh! New season, Board Bia quality assured, and only $2.65. The ice cream van's nothing but a distant memory. Good food, good mood, from Aldi, while stocks last.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the second hour of the 9 till noon show. How you all keeping? I do hope you're very well indeed. We really appreciate you listening or watching the show. It's great to have you on board, and you're keeping us really busy too on phone lines and what have you. Some of the comments coming in today. Quilcher is growing invasive Sitka spruce on 1 million acres. That's 1 million acres we could restore instead of exploiting it for profit. It's state land, so we should have a say in how it's used, but only if people become motivated and invested in it, I suppose. In relation to TB, there are badgers and deer everywhere. In Wicklow, the locals are tortured with TB due to deer. There's no simple solution to this issue. Badgers need to be vaccinated or culled. But badgers are culled in massive, massive numbers. And I was just curious if, really what I was trying to ask the doctor was, it's not that I'm a badger warrior, but we're culling, I'll try and get figures on how many badgers we cull, but we cull an awful lot of badgers. And to be honest with you, no harm if you've ever hit one of them on the roads. But anyway, we cull a lot of badgers, but is it having any impact at all in the control of TB? A caller says someone from Inishowen would be better off travelling to Dublin for the Donegal match. Roscommon is on the border with Mayo. This is all political. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's... I don't know the motivation for the decision, but there's absolutely no doubt there are people from Donegal who really want to be at that game, but because of the distance and because of the time of the match are simply not going to go. About the Donegal versus Mayo match, can you advise your listeners that the road between Boyle and Roscommon is closed due to major road works, going to be massive traffic delays, they warn? Is that considered, I wonder? Well done with raising the matter. You're always ahead of the curve regarding the Children's Hospital and overspend. Do you know that when the other children wards are amalgamated into the hospital, it'll have less beds? So I am told by a surgeon. I cannot validate that other than from what I'm being told. Also, maybe a bit of journalism would reveal that operating theatres in Dublin are not operating daily because they don't have staff. We're not even using the limited resources we have. Well, you don't have to go to Dublin to see problems with operating theatres and staff, but I enjoy your comment, or I appreciate your comment. During World War II, our government had a compulsory tillage scheme. Irish food security is a real problem, but government departments are not interested. I know directly from a professor's own mouth that when they were at Department of Agriculture meeting, food diversification was raised. The department official remarked, "Our only concern is cows farting and how you can help us reduce it. We should have a national home grower scheme that everyone could be a part of." Again, The food supply security is an issue. It won't be raised by our politicians until it's a problem, and then they will blame everyone else. I bought fishing rods and fishing tackle just in case. What do you call people who hoard for fear of a major event or an apocalypse? There's a word for it. You're not quite at that yet with a couple of fishing rods, but hey, no harm in having them. Let me see. This Sunday, the 8th of June, 40 years on. I wonder how many people remember the night. What happened on the 8th of June 40 years ago? Well, Barry McGuigan won the world title by beating Eusebio Pedrosa. What an achievement, what a night. It was indeed, and I do remember that, unfortunately. It's great to have the memory, but it's not so great being as old as you can remember. And then the title was kind of handed away. If my memory serves me correctly, he fought in the desert then. You know, this guy from Clonus, there was an open air fight in the desert, and I think is it Steve Cruz he fought? And I'm genuinely doing that from memory, and I could be really wrong. But I remember he fought against Steve Cruz, and my recollection of it, I don't know, was it the 8th, 9th round? Maybe it was sooner, or maybe it was later. But completely dehydrated, not built for such a climate. I may have misremembered that, but as much as I remember him winning the title, I do seem to recall him losing it against a fellow called Steve Cruz, and it was out in the open, I think. In my head, I see a ring in the desert, right? I'm not quite sure if it was a ring in the desert, but I don't see any crowds. Now, obviously, there were crowds there. But I might be misremembering. But thank you for that, because I'm certainly actually going to go on YouTube now and see if I can remind myself of that, because obviously it's tied in to memories of watching it with my father and brother, you know, stuff that you can't replace. But that's my recollection of that. I wonder, am I right? I'll check. Right, huge reaction from you, of course, in relation to our conversations yesterday with Dr. Anya Keating and Dr. Ciara Steele. They are two of 170 doctors, consultants, medical professionals, both in the hospital and around the county, who wrote a letter effectively saying, look, you know, I don't want to paraphrase it, but what I heard was, if we don't get a surgical hub, you know, it is the next step in the downgrade of Letterkenny University Hospital. And there are people who were warning about this downgrade 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's not necessarily a planned downgrade, but, you know, certainly the direction of traffic. If you lose consultants, if you lose resources, you lose the ability to operate as a hospital. It's the sixth busiest hospital in the country. It's the second busiest Model 3 hospital. There's been generations of underspending in relation to it. And now the hope was a surgical hub could, you know, retain and maybe improve things going forward. That surgical hub, it's been decided now, will go to Sligo. That decision was made months ago, right? And it's bedded in. It's going to take a lot of unravelling. I still have hope that it might be unravelled. We're still persisting with trying to get a word with the health minister. I really want to get something on the record that she's going to commit to review this, that she's going to get commit to get the HSC in the West Northwest to have a look at this again. As I do note, you know, I'm not being critical of other media outlets. It's going to sound like I am, but I'm not. But thankfully, RTE yesterday, they did take on a Donegal GP to talk about this letter. 171 people in the county. It's never happened before. It's unprecedented, seeking a meeting with the health minister. And the health minister was on RTE this morning. Now, I really hope I'm wrong, but the health minister, and RTE covered this themselves yesterday morning, and they had the health minister sitting there in the studio. And she was asked about a number of things, CHI and what have you. And they could have followed up their own story and asked, are you committed to meeting the Minister for Health? The only way I can imagine that question was asked is if it was off the table to ask that question. In other words, you can have access to the Minister, but just don't ask about the letter from Donegal GP just yet. I really, really hope that that's not the case. But I sit in this chair and I know the story, right? Any journalist worth their salt would follow their own story up from yesterday morning. It's not their story specifically, it's all of our story. They would have followed up, Dr. McGuinness on with them, wasn't it? They would have followed up their own story yesterday, and as far as I'm aware, unless I missed it, they didn't ask a follow-up question to their own story. And the only way I can imagine that could happen, because they had a good 10, 15 minutes with her, I think, is if it was off the table not to ask that question. And that's very troubling, and it shouldn't be the case. And I would love to know if it was the case. I really would love to know the case. I hope it was a journalistic oversight and not a decision, and not a request not to ask that question. And I'll leave it up to you to decide what the story is. Emma Gova, the wee Donegal mommy, messaged in, after listening to Dr. Anya Keating and Dr. Ciara Steele on Greg Hughes on Highland Radio, myself and Betty Holmes, after a lengthy phone call, have decided to postpone for now an upcoming meeting that we had been planning for healthcare advocates and campaigners this month in regards to a lack of funding and under-resourcing of Letterkenny University Hospital. The reason for this is that at this present moment in time, we believe it is more important than ever to put our 100% support behind those 171 doctors who've written to the Minister for Health requesting an immediate meeting in regards to awarding of the surgical hub outside of LUH. We would encourage all people in Donegal to get behind these doctors too and give them 100% support. We'll update you as soon as we can. Now, if you wanted to, I'm not a campaigner, I'm just sitting in the seat, but if you wanted to email the Health Minister to back those doctors, you could. I know there are templates going about. I'm not a fan of templates. I think just your own words, use AI, whatever it is, just a couple of lines if you want to. Minister's office at health.gov.ie. Minister's office at health.gov.ie. If you want to back those medical professionals and say to them, enough is enough. We can't be ignored. We need this hub. We need a hospital. You heard from Dr. Anya Keaton, the way she outlined how the hospital could degrade in time without that surgical hub. Right. Hi, Greg. In my honest opinion on why this country is seriously seeing all our services in a state of collapse or already not fit for purpose is because we've politicians and ministers who are in their position not through merit but by securing a position by a family name or being given it for a favour. Seriously, if you sit back and listen to them, it's not hard to see the country's being run by imbeciles whose only real intention is to never answer a question truthfully as to run out their term as easy as possible. Not picking on one in particular, but how did Helen McEntee get another position after showing how inept she is as a minister? I'm torn on Minister McEntee. I think she did a lot of good as Minister for Justice. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of scrutiny of her role, but particularly in terms of women's safety and what have you. Rosina Tona here. Finally, we're getting somewhere. Fair play to the doctors for coming together and speaking out. After our meeting in the hospital at the end of April, I do believe public reps and hospital management are making an effort too. So with the doctors now pushing forwards, this can really go somewhere. Thanks, Rosina. I appreciate your comment there. Greg, doctors are standing up for the people of Donegal where our politicians have failed to do so. Listen, there's an element of orchestration that goes on with these things. I think the politicians have been privy for some time as to the concerns of the doctors. Maybe they've worked with them to not plan this out as such, but to work with them to perhaps maybe allow the doctors to speak out first and then back that up with sort of, political commentary. I think there is and not in a bad way necessarily. It depends. I don't agree. I would do things differently, right? But I think there's certainly an element of orchestration to try and have the greatest impact with the campaign. Let me put it like that. What is the views of the Donegal government rep on Sligo being the new hub? We know what opposition representatives' views are. Speak to and challenge government reps on the issue. Well, firstly, neither government rep would speak to me. Pat the Cope Gallagher doesn't want to speak. Charlie McConnell has a long-standing policy of not speaking to me because he believes I'm too opinionated and anti-government, which both of those, I might be opinionated. It's not the news here. I'm entitled to have a say. But anyway, I'm certainly not anti-government. I don't care who delivers as long as they deliver for Donegal. But anyway, both of them have released statements saying they fully support the doctors, in fairness. So whether they speak, it's completely up to them. But both of them are fully supportive of Letterkenny getting a surgical hub, and they are saying they're using their contacts and their channels to try and ensure that happens, along with the three opposition TDs. Okay, that's all that. Let's take a break. Back shortly.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday the 4th of June. You're playing on the blue sheet for the daily prize of €400. The reference number is S13. It's game number 23. The numbers are 3, 86, 29, 9, 45, 18, 63, 85, 20, and finally 23. Phone your claim to 910-4833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Are you a community hero? Return is championing over 3,000 community initiatives across Ireland's cities, towns and villages with our Small Town Big Difference campaign. For your chance to win €2,000 for your local community group, tell us how your initiative is making an impact in your local area with the deposit return scheme. T's and C's apply. Visit return.ie/heroes for more information.
Shop Homeland's June mega deals at your local Homeland or online at homeland.ie. Save 10% off all Snickers workwear, trousers and shorts. Very non-bio laundry pods, 51 wash, now only $13.99. Save 15% off all Royal Canine, Mini, Medium and Maxi Dog food bags. Offers end June 22nd. Visit homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves. Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Okay, so obviously we have a role to platform people's concerns as it relates to the handling of the defective concrete blocks crisis as people seek to improve the scheme. So we also too have to recognise if positive inroads are being made in that regard. Sure, why wouldn't we? Deputy Charles Ward of the 100% Redress Party is with me on the show now. Good morning to you, Charles. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning to all the listeners.
So what are the potential positives here?
So basically what we have is the Minister is going to take to Cabinet basically some of the concerns that we have told him, and we expect that side by side will go ahead for families that are vulnerable.
Talk to me about the significance of that, Charles, because I want to take it as we go. You and I, to some extent, are very familiar with this. But what does that mean?
Yeah. So, for example, if we take, the Gibsons and young Emma, who's severely disabled, they're in their home. Their home it's got defective concrete. It needs to be demolished. They cannot move anywhere else. The house is designed to suit Emma and all the equipment that she requires. So what their plan was to build on the site next to the house, but they weren't allowed to. This will allow them to build that house, and when their house is complete, their new home's complete, they can move themselves and Emma into this home and then demolish the house that's left. This is why we get side by side.
Brilliant. So it gives a bit of it gives a bit of flexibility, doesn't it? Which, in terms of planning, which is very welcome.
Yeah, well, it's very welcome. But what we need to realise too is we have this case here, but we have hundreds of cases, maybe even thousands of cases where this could be the case. Instead of, for example, when this scheme does kick off properly, and there's thousands of people going forward, we have nowhere to accommodate them. But if they have the land to do it, I would be looking at, if they have the land to do it, let them build on that land and demolish the house afterwards, because then we've only got 28 rental properties on daft.ie in Donegal. Where are we going to put the thousands? This is a positive step, but it's in the wording. You know, we got to be cautious.
Very limited circumstances. Very limited circumstances for vulnerable families.
Yeah, but what I'd like to say about that too is, if you took very vulnerable, our banks now are looking at it and they're saying anybody with a defective home is regarded as a vulnerable family. And I think that is the lived experience for 100% of us. You know, we're not we don't have the luxury of going into a safe, secure home and that's the foundation of everything in your life. Is your home is your castle and your family. When there's something wrong with your home, it does affect people.
Yeah, we saw an increase announced in terms of the cap for those who were sort of, I suppose, going to construction on the scheme. It does seem now there's going to be a retrospective element to it. The increased scheme cap and rates will now apply to all applicants who incurred costs since 29th of March 2024. Will that catch the majority of people, or most of them, or some of them, or
it will help a vast majority, but this is where the devil is in the detail again. That date will mean that if your completion is prior to this, you will not qualify for a retrospective payment, and this is where we leave. This is the thing. This leaves people behind, which is wrong.
Yeah. So in other words, if you completed your works before the 29th of March, you will not avail of the increased cap and rates.
Yeah.
But if you if you're started after that and you haven't completed.
Yeah. So you take, for example, you'll know some. Let's say a guy called Paddy started his build. He finished in December 2023. Completion's in. They're in for Christmas. They're 40 grand down, 50 grand down, whatever they're down. That retrospective payment would have helped them. They won't. Currently, the way it sits, they won't get that.
Okay, but if I started on the 30th of March and I had a fantastic run of it and got into my house in January 25, completed, would I still get the top up?
You will get the top.
Okay. Right. There's always going to be people left behind, very sadly. How significant is an increase in time allowed for remediation works? It's quite a dramatic increase, actually, really, if the truth be told.
Look, that is what's needed, because what we've got currently going on, and I'm speaking to builders on the ground here, is we don't have enough contractors. We don't have enough block layers. We don't have enough, and this is the scheme only starting off. If we take the numbers from last year, 382 homes completed in Donegal. That's not including DCB homes. What we need in and around 1,200 homes built every single year. We're so far off the pace, and we can't ramp it up because we can't get the qualified bodies in. And this is why I keep on saying this. We need to look outside. We need to start looking at a major construction company to come in. If this is the biggest scheme in the state, why would we be giving it to a local authority to administer? This is putting pressure on the local authority. Let's get a company in that can do this.
There are other flexibilities being proposed in planning as well, which might be helpful. Adapting dwellings, a little bit of flexibility on things like pitched roofs and what have you.
Yeah. Look, Greg, this is the way it's got to be. If we're going to fix this housing crisis that we currently have, 380 houses a year in Donegal is not going to do it. It's not even going to help us grow. So what we need to do is we need to get the proper planning regulations in place where we have inspections and people come in, and we need to think outside the box and get on with it. You know what I mean? This is the fact of the matter. We have to get on with it, because what we've got coming down the line is we've got a DCB concrete defective crisis going on in Donegal, but also our children are growing up and living in their childhood bedrooms, becoming young adults, when they don't have the same opportunities we had when we were 19, 20, going to rent a place. Nobody could rent a place at 20 years old now. You're talking, what, 1,500 for
it's crazy.
2 or 3 bedroom.
Can I just clarify something? Sorry, because I don't want this to be attributed to you either. There was a number of announcements made by the Housing Minister today. When I talk about a bit of flexibility in planning, that's across the board. So across the board, exactly. Yeah. So up until I mentioned that it's DCB specific, but in terms of adapting properties, that's more general. Just to be clear, I made that mistake. And
that's more than welcome. We have to go down.
It all fits in, of course, as well.
We have to go down the bungalow bliss route again. That's what this country needs if we're going to sort this out. And when it comes to the defective concrete crisis and it going to cabinet, and then it comes to the housing committee, well, part of my deal when I joined for my speaking rights was I negotiated that anything to do with defective concrete and the housing committee, I will be on that. So where we have Brian Stanley and Richard Boyd Barrett going in doing their normal thing with the housing committee, anything to do with defective concrete in Ireland, in Donegal, I am the representative for, and I will be. I will have the vote too, and I'll have a hands-on for the defective concrete when it comes to the housing committee.
Just one thing about this 29th of March 2024 question, sorry, because I'm just looking at the wording here.
Mm-hmm.
Say your build straddles that date, so there's half the build beforehand and half the build afterhand. Does the rates increase cover the entirety of that construction, or just any work that would have continued after the 29th of March 2024?
Yeah, so you have your commencement, and then you have your completion. Your completion is your finish date.
Mhm.
So if that was over to that, in my eyes, and the paperwork would say it, you completed your build after that date.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you completed your build on the 30th of March 2024, you're of the view that you will be entitled to the increased rate?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. And I would like to see, look, this is why I'm here. There will be cases that come to me, and that is the step, and I will take these cases and go and fight for them.
Okay. Well, we might get clarity on that ASAP, because I think people listening now might think, all right.
Of course, and then there will be people on that date. There's, you know what I mean? There's no doubt about it. But look, it is a positive. It is a positive outlook if you look at it like this. You know, if you said to us, we met the Housing Minister 3 weeks ago. We said side by sides. We said the 10%.
He's listening. Hopefully, that's all you can want, isn't it? Yeah.
Look,
credit to him if he is. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He is listening, and it's about now. It's about keep pushing it, and we've got to keep pushing it, because it's over now. We have to make sure that we get this scheme up and right, because we've had 2 failed schemes. Now, let the defective concrete amendment bill go in, and then we actually tweak it to work for the people in Donegal, because we've had years of misery, and it's time it ended.
All right, listen, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it. That's Deputy Charles Ward there, and as I say, some critical questions there about, if you finished your property on the 1st of April 2024, you're going to want to know definitively whether or not you're going to get the increased rates. Charles Ward's of the opinion that you will. I've got my fingers crossed that you will. I'd be really keen to get some clarity in relation to that one. 08660 25,000 is the general inquiries number here. 08660 25,000.
Planning holidays, creating memories. Atlantic Travel on Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny bring you today's 9 till noon show. See atlantictravel.ie.
The Irish Independent says the all-new Dacia Bigster offers style, comfort and agility. It's the big family car with big space, big tech, a big boot and big hybrid power with a not-so-big price tag. From an incredible €29,990 with low-cost finance options available. Visit your local Dacia dealer to find out more. Price excludes delivery and related charges. T's and C's apply, subject to lending criteria. Offers are limited. See dacia.ie.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up, fresh colour for your walls, or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
You can hope, touch wood, wave to that magpie, but sometimes, no matter how many umbrellas you refuse to open indoors, things happen. And if they happen, you should know what we do. We are the Injuries Resolution Board, the independent and impartial state body that resolves personal injury claims in Ireland. We use the same guidelines as the courts to calculate compensation, and on average, we resolve cases 2 years faster, saving time and money. Find out more about us at injuries.ie. And fingers crossed, you'll never need us.
Maybe you're finally on a date again,
6 months after your divorce. Or maybe you and your better half are wondering whether a cuddle could be more than a cuddle. Or perhaps you'd like to tell a woman you're absolutely mad about that you don't feel like it tonight. There are lots of times and places where we need to say what we want and what we don't want. Whatever the moment, have the consent conversation.
A message from Cuan, a Government of Ireland agency.
Now, Ulster University recently conducted a study examining the cost of living on children's participation in sport. So that's the cost of living and its impact on children's participation in sport. 80 to 100 parents were surveyed across Northern Ireland examining the cost of living effect on sport and social activity. Dr. Maria O'Kane is lecturer in healthcare science at Ulster University and joins us on the programme now. Good morning to you, Doctor. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me.
Right, okay. So what were some of the key findings of this study?
Yeah, so this is research we conducted last year. So we had 855 parents or guardians in Northern Ireland completed the survey. And really what we found, and I suppose it's important to bear in mind that 90% of this population, so the vast majority were in employment. So I'd ask you to keep that in mind when you hear some of the key findings. Around 35% of parents had reduced the spending on sport and physical activity for their children since the onset of the cost of living crisis in 2021. Added to that, 30% told us they were unable to afford the equipment and clothing that their children need to take part in physical activity and in sport. And I suppose one of the more stark findings was that almost a quarter of parents or guardians reported using credit or debt to cover the cost of sport and physical activity for their children. So some really important findings in terms of children's participation, both in sport and in physical activity, and how parents are really struggling to cover the costs of those activities for their children.
Yeah, putting financial and emotional pressure on them, because it's clear most parents are doing all they can to continue their child's participation in sport. Clearly, they're seeing the benefits of it.
Absolutely. So this was a population, so we asked them about their support for physical activity for their children, and the majority were really supportive of sport and physical activity. 85%, so the vast majority said that sport and physical activity were more important than ever for their children to manage stress and manage worry. So this population group clearly saw the benefit of their children taking part in sport and physical activity, but they were just really struggling to afford it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the way things are going, reading in the papers today about, groceries still going up, everybody has their tipping point. There is a point you breach for everyone. It doesn't matter what your income levels are, but obviously if you're in lower incomes, that comes sooner. So, it presumably is a worsening problem as, the cost of the basics continues to rise.
Absolutely. And within the research, we asked questions to collect data on socioeconomic status. And actually, when we break down the findings across 6 different indicators of socioeconomic status, we can see that there are particular groups who have been worse affected by the cost of living crisis. So if you take, for example, single parent families, families where they're in receipt of benefits, where a parent is unemployed, you really see the increase in stress and pressure that those families are under. So if we take, for example, the question around using credit or debt, we can see that 50% of those who were unemployed reported using credit or debt to cover the cost of sport and physical activity for
what
their
I'd
children.
be worried, I mean, that's worrying in and of itself, of course, but what sacrifices were they making to the point whereby there was no more fat to cut and you had to start borrowing?
Absolutely. Yeah, so when we followed up with parents, so after the survey, I conducted almost 30 interviews with parents, and I suppose that really gave us the context in which, and adding some detail to the findings and the statistics that we had from the survey, but parents told us how they had sacrificed their own activities for their children to take part in sport. They were no longer doing the things that make them happy or relieve stress and the benefits that they get from sport and physical activity. So they were sacrificing that for their children. They had tried to hold off as long as they could from withdrawing their children from sport. There was a real sense that children were no longer getting exposure to the various sports and physical activities that they would have done, maybe for the eldest child, for example. So parents are doing what they can to ensure their children can continue to participate. They're really aware of the benefits and they're supportive of sport. I suppose it comes down to money and just not being able to afford it. And especially when you have a family maybe participating in a sport that is seen to be a bit more expensive than some of the others, it's the it's the implications that has for children that are talented and maybe moving into playing county level or an elite sport, and that's just not a
I mean,
possibility. So
that's it.
parents can't afford.
If it's GH, your gum shield, it's your football boots. Soccer, it's the same. If it's swimming, it could be the bus to the swimming, it could be the membership. If it's athletics, it could be the spiked shoes or the proper shorts. It's not a luxury. These are the essentials for it. But I mean, obviously, the more active our children are, the better it is for the state, in terms of their physical health and less dependency, we would hope, on the NHS, HSE into the future. Their mental health, so less support, you would hope, in terms of mental health services, more socialising, more community integration. Everything points to the fact that, and I'm not sure in your position as a lecturer at Ulster University if you can comment to this, but everything points to the fact that the Stormont or the London government or whatever should be doing all they can to help support families to support their children in sport.
Absolutely. So we know that in Northern Ireland, less than 1 in 5 children get enough physical activity or meet physical activity guidelines. So our levels of physical activity are really low to start with. Research from England has shown that for every pound that's invested in sport, there's £4 worth of benefit to the government and to society. Data, it's 10 years old now, so probably the figures have increased, but research has shown that if we can see a 1% change in the levels of our adolescents meeting physical activity guidelines, so just 1%, that would have an 800 million saving over the course of their lifetime in terms of the mental health costs, the healthcare costs, the quality of life, their life expectancy. So there's real benefits to be harnessed. And I suppose one of the things that we have done as a result of this research is come up with 6 policy asks. So things that we're asking the government specifically for around making PE time in schools mandatory. So at the minute it's a recommendation, and we know that from data on the Children's Sport Participation Physical Activity Report, children aren't getting the 120 minutes of PE that's recommended per week. We've asked for some rather simple or easy wins, I suppose, around an online portal for parents to be able to access what free or low cost opportunities exist in their area, so that we know in different parts of the communities there's really good work ongoing around free activities. But parents in the interviews told us that unless you're in the right Facebook groups or the WhatsApp groups, you maybe don't know that those exist. So that would be one way that we could provide up-to-date, localised information for families that they can see in their area what opportunities exist that are free or are local.
Up until now, we've been talking about how parents, the sacrifices they make or the decisions they make to keep their children active in sport. Unless I missed you referencing this, does this survey catch those that simply can't afford to send their children to sport? So maybe they have a budding GAA star, or maybe they have a very talented girl who's a future Northern Ireland soccer player, for an example, but they simply cannot afford for them to participate in sport, because that's a whole different group of individuals altogether.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that 90% of this population were employed, so probably what we're seeing is slightly better than what the real life situation might be in the communities. That tends to be the case with survey-based research. It tends to be people who've been educated to higher levels, for example, that tend to participate. So what I'm reporting here might be a better case scenario. And I suppose we captured that within the interviews around parents saying they couldn't afford for their child to progress, they couldn't afford the tournament costs, the hotel stays if they're going to a competition overseas or in the Republic of Ireland, for example. And really what comes next, I suppose, is so important in terms of surveying sports clubs on the island of Ireland. So from parents, we got some good insights as to how sports clubs support children from low-income families or those who are struggling financially. But what we'll see there is how clubs do that. So how that comes to life, how that is implemented and actioned within clubs, and some of the work that's ongoing. So that survey is live at the minute, and we would hope to have that data in the coming months then to really share best practice among different sports. You mentioned the GA there. We heard some really good examples of swap shops and payments over the course of a year, not all in one lump sum. So there's some really good examples across various sports, but I think the important thing is to share that best practice among the clubs and the sports on the island of Ireland, and that's the next piece of this puzzle, I suppose.
All right, Dr. Maria O'Kane, lecturer in healthcare science at Ulster University. A team worked on that, including Termon's Roisin McCafferty as well, too, who was involved in that research paper. So a special shout out to her. Thanks so much for your time, Maria.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Slán. Thank you very much indeed.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves. Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Discover the charm of Mabel Moville, your one-stop shop with something for everyone. Grab your favourite Costa Coffee Express, the only one in any showing. Treat yourself to fresh home-baked goodies or indulge in creamy smooch ice cream and milkshakes made to order with real dairy ice cream. Whether you're planning a quiet night in or a weekend get-together, we've got your refreshments covered. Not forgetting our tasty deli, and you can fuel up with apple green. Mabel Moville. Fresh, convenient and local.
Running a business isn't easy, but accessing support should be. The new National Enterprise Hub is the single source for all government support for your business. With over 180 supports in one place, it's easier than ever to find grants, advice, training and more. And don't worry about not knowing what you need. Our helpful team will guide you every step of the way. Visit neh.gov.ie to learn how we can help. The National Enterprise Hub. Support starts here, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Summer is sizzling, and so is the Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale, which has just been extended for a limited time only. Don't miss out on the sale of the season at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, or shop online at easylivingfurniture.co.uk.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture, luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
Sometimes you have to simply enhance what you have. Like the new Opel Mokka. With a new infotainment system, dash, and interior. It's had a little work done. After all, it's what's on the inside that counts. As for the outside, why mess with perfection? The new Opel Mokka. It's a head-turner. Available in petrol, hybrid and electric. Find out more at Manor Motors Opel. See manormotors.ie for details.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, so turning cloudy this morning as a band of organised showers spread from the northwest before becoming well scattered this afternoon and easing towards evening. Temperatures 11 to 14 degrees, coolest near the coast, of course, and there'll be a moderate westerly breeze. Now, we're joined on the programme by Minister of State at the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine with special responsibility for forestry, farm safety and horticulture, Minister Michael Healy-Rae. Good morning, Minister. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg, and thank you for the opportunity of allowing me on your show.
No, it's good to have you on. Now, just before I get into what we're going to talk about, just coincidentally, we were speaking to a well-known Donegal vet, Dr. Gerard Rorty, a little earlier on, and he was backing the Irish Natural Hill Farmers Association's concerns about the government's plans to purchase land for national parks, particularly regarding the potential impact on farmers. You know, he was talking of the difficulty in young farmers getting on the ladder, buying a pocket of land or what have you. Also, the fact that the state in your own county has been paying double the asking price effectively for some of this land, skewing the cost of land more generally. This is government policy. You're part of that government. How concerned are you? Do you share any concerns, or do you think this is the right way forward?
Well, no, I can understand 100% why that vet, and because of his life's experience, of course, he'll be dealing with farmers every day. One of the biggest problems that farmers have if a young person is coming on board, and we want succession. This government is committed to allowing an orderly progression of younger farmers taking over our family farms. And of course, if they want to expand and purchase land, you don't want a situation where the state would be competing with young people when it comes to purchasing lands. Now, the amount of instances and the amount of times that would have actually happened, I don't want it to be exaggerated. I know it has happened where the state has bought and might be buying different places, but it wouldn't be an awful lot. It wouldn't be an awful lot of instances that it would happen. So I don't want it to be exaggerated, but of course, if it happens to one individual, that's one individual that might, you don't want people to be put out if they're looking to buy next door to them, and you don't want a situation where the state is competing with them. But sometimes the state has to do things, and if it's deemed by the department that land is wanted for whatever purpose, well, we just hope that it wouldn't happen too much. That's the way I'd word it too.
Yeah, indeed. Is it something that we need to have more of a conversation on? Because it kind of does talk to where we are going in this country. What are we going to do? Are we just going to be a country of, solar panel farms, effectively, most of Donegal becoming and this is an exaggeration, of course, a national park. There are big questions about the future of farming in this country, the future of agriculture, our own food security, our ability, to work the land. And I referenced this to the vet a little earlier on. I just think as we head to 2030, we're going to miss our climate targets by a mile, that the scrutiny is going to go to the low-hanging fruit, which is farmers, which is agriculture. Do we not need a proper national conversation about where we are going and what the plan is, and if this buying up of land to extend on national parks, for an example, is the right way forward?
Well, Greg, the first thing I'd say to you is when it comes to farmers and off-farm income, whether that's people who want to put up turbines, if their land is suitable to turbines, or if people want to put in solar farms, you must remember those two forms of renewable energy which the government supports. You actually can continue with your farming practices, as you know. The solar panels can be constructed in such a way that sheep could graze in those areas. And you also have the situation, of course, where the turbines actually take up or disturb farming practices in a very small way, but they mean an awful lot when it comes to off-farm income. And so renewable energies and the way we do that is something that the government supports. But also, we want our farmers to have as many avenues of income as possible, because sometimes, an enterprise like that can make an awful difference to a family. Okay. And again, when it comes to the transition, we want to ensure that young people will be able to take over the farms and that will be commercially viable for them to do so, because that is so important.
We are heading into, listen, it's busy all year round for farmers, but it's a particularly busy time now. And very sadly, we get figures of real people dying in instances on the farm. The majority of them are avoidable. I mean, sometimes something is completely unavoidable. But in terms of, farm deaths and also serious injuries where it's, potentially one person working the farm and they need to look at maybe the safety practices to ensure that they're there to do that. You're impressing in your role on farmers and everyone, I suppose, on farms, visiting farms or in the countryside, to be extra careful this summer to see if we can limit to the absolute best possible the amount of serious injury and fatalities.
Well, I am, Greg, because farm safety is my responsibility. The promotion of farm safety, farmers' well-being, whether it's their physical or mental health, that is my responsibility. It's a role I take very seriously. And the department and I are providing a range of supports and initiatives to promote farm safety, their health and well-being. There's a fund of €2.5 million, which will be used towards promoting farm safety. We'll be working and are working very closely with organisations, the farm organisations, but also with the HSA and the Farm Safety Partnership, in trying to ensure that we encourage farmers. The work you're doing is dangerous in many instances. Of course it is, no more than going onto a building site. But there is an awful difference between going onto a building site and going onto a farm, and that if you go onto a building site, for example, you couldn't dare go in there without all the proper PPE gear, and if you were working at heights, you'd have to be harnessed, you'd have to have your boots with your steel toe caps, and all of your working methods would be with safety as a priority focus. But unfortunately, on our farms, we have a disproportionate amount of accidents, fatal, and which also result in very serious injuries. And every one of us have friends and have people that have unfortunately died at work on their farms, but also who have had very serious accidents. And one thing that I cherish on our farms is the fact that today there are young people going to be working, and for the rest of the summer they'll be driving tractors, and we want them. We want them to be driving machinery. We want them to be working, but we want them to be so conscious of the fact that they have a big role of responsibility, so they have to be safe. And no matter what job you're at today on a farm, no matter what you're doing, if the job wasn't to be done at all, and I know it's very important that the work gets done, but the most important thing is that you get to go home this evening and close the door behind you, and that you're in one piece and that you're safe and sound. Because the horror and the everlasting effect that it can have if there's a serious injury, or worse of all, a death or a loss, that'll never be forgotten by a family or by a community. So we want to do everything we can to ensure that. I always say about farming, an awful lot of the time you have to work alone. And it's very smart to come along and say, well, you shouldn't work alone. But look,
not reality.
In theory, that's one thing. But in reality, but when you are going at what I would call a more dangerous job, don't ever be slow about saying, I'm going to leave that after me. Sometimes the best job whoever did was the job who mightn't do it all. And get help, get somebody to come with you. And if it's knocking, for example, a dangerous tree, don't dare go at something like that on your own. Because, look, and I know money can be scarce and everything, but it would pay you so well to get in a proper person that would be used to that, a younger person maybe, because every one of us, as we get older, we get a bit slower. We mightn't be as quick on our feet. We mightn't be as agile as what we were before. And you just must mind yourself and your number one priority. Of course, your farming is important, your animals are important, but the most important thing is yourself and the people that are working with you to be careful. We will do everything we can, working with the organisations, and the government is really, really committed to ensure the safety of our farmers and to try and ensure that we will minimise the deaths, because every death is a death too much. And predominantly an awful lot of these accidents that can happen through dealing with livestock, machinery, working from heights, working saws, all of those sort of things. There are so many things you really have to be on your game,
And of course we focus on, and we've both mentioned it, we focus on the deaths. Unfortunately, 5 of the 11 deaths this year to date, 45% were confirmed workplace incidents that were on the farm. But it's the 4,500 non-fatal incidents on Irish farms every year where someone's got life-changing injuries, a broken leg, a lost leg, God knows what, and that's a huge number. And there are resources there, and we appreciate you, Minister, coming on and helping us get the word out there. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, take care. Thanks so much.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
All right, another busy hour on the way. Stay right where you are. Let's get the news headlines first, though, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. We could be a step closer to seeing a draft of the remediation of dwellings damaged by the use of defective concrete blocks amendment bill become a reality. The Minister for Housing is to seek Cabinet approval today. The bill will see a cap and rate increase applied retrospectively from March 29th of last year, and the side-by-side construction of the new home beside the house that is defective. It's something that's long been lobbied for, particularly in the case of one family who have a daughter with specific mobility needs who is struggling to find suitable alternative accommodation. A local councillor is calling for the water pipes on Lower Main Street Letterkenny to be replaced due to chronic outages and bursts. A number of weeks ago, Councillor Michael McBride was called by a concerned resident who thought there was a sinkhole in the town. It was later revealed that it was a severe bust. Councillor McBride says that as far as he is aware now, the mains are not on any scheme to be fixed down the line. Leona Mackin says getting an apology from the HSE means a lot to her. The 38-year-old was diagnosed with late-stage cervical cancer in 2023 after previous smear tests in 2016 and 2020 were wrongly reported as normal. Yesterday, the High Court heard an apology from the HSE, which has also agreed to pay an undisclosed amount in damages. A temporary pause has been put on funding for public hospitals providing extra services to treat patients on long waiting lists. It follows concerns over a Children's Health Ireland review from 2021, which looked at how the money was being handled. CHI says the report cannot be published for legal reasons, but its recommendations have been implemented. And finally, a record number of students are sitting their state exams today, with almost 5,000 of those in Donegal. Over 140,000 pupils have started their Leaving and Junior Cert exams, with English Paper 1 this morning. The exams will run until the 24th of June. That's all for now from the news desk. Back with more at 12 noon.
Donna Marie, thank you very much. We'll be back after the break.
Planning holidays, creating memories. Atlantic Travel on Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny bring you today's 9 till noon show. See atlantictravel.ie.
Join Davida's home care team. We value individuality. We deliver care with compassion and respect. We will train you and support you every step of the way. But above all, we will empower you to make a meaningful difference every day. Your life, your way. Join Davida. Apply today at davida.ie or call your local Davida office.
Go electric during our 252 event and discover our full range of rewired iconic Ford cars, including the all-electric Explorer, the all-new Capri, and the Puma has gone fully electric, starting from €29,900. Ford have gone electric. Ireland is going electric. So what's stopping you? Go electric. Book your test drive at Ford.ie. Offer ends 15th of June. Price includes grant and BRT relief and excludes delivery and related charges. T's and C's apply.
Tá an slí maidir le Johnú orgán ag gahrú. Ón 16 mehv, be gachtain na fásta in éireann ina diontóir orgán nar ein siad bás. Cabhró sé seo le behadíní a hábháil agus a ahrú go thomláin. Be an chocht agad péród atá ceart duitse a ránú. Leabhar le a heilech agus le a cháirde, chuna chintú gúil siad ar neolalas faoi do rogha. Fáid tuile eolais faoin ahrú seo ag gov.ie/organ donation. Teachtareacht ó Rialtas na Héireann.
Pedio thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Unleash your creative spirit this Crinne Nog and join us on Saturday, June 7th for a free day of youthful creativity. There are events for everyone aged up to 18 years across Donegal, from Carndonagh to Bundoran and Arranmore to Raphoe. It's an opportunity to try new creative skills. All details, including booking, are available at donegalculture.ie.
Hiya! Listen, you weren't kidding about pet insurance. I should have got it. Just had Piper at the vet's. She ate what is turning out to be the most expensive bar of chocolate of all time. Don't worry, she's fine. My bank account? Not so much.
Real life. Written by you, underwritten by Allianz. Protect your pet with 12% off new pet insurance policies at allianz.ie. Allianz PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Standard acceptance criteria and terms and conditions apply.
All right, we're joined on the programme now by John Wilkie, Letterkenny resident. Good morning, John.
Yes, Greg. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. This is a tricky one, though, because, yeah, you're asking people to stop supporting the plight of those in Gaza by using graffiti effectively?
Well, I'm not actually saying that. I'm just it's about the graffiti, Greg. It's what good is it going to be doing the people in Gaza? What good is it going to do the Palestinian people? It's making a mess of our town. People writing on walls and red. I see now they've red writing up starvation, all that sort of stuff, genocide. You know, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not anyway anti-Palestinian. And there has to be something else done rather than being writing on walls in the town, particularly at this time of year when we're looking to win the tidiest town in Ireland, which we did in 2015. You know,
I'm looking at the graffiti here, as are those who are watching the show. Gaza, stop genocide, pray for Gaza. It's in massive writing on a wall. And I'm looking at it, and I'm torn, John, to be completely honest with you.
I know what you're saying. I've got a bit of flack.
I was watching last night.
Flack.
Yeah, just let me outline this, and then I'll get your view, John. You know, I was watching Gaza footage of Gaza yesterday. You know, people being shot, scrambling for food. The entire area just flattened, and kids dying every day. And then I look at a bit of spray painting on a wall in support of them, and it's easy for me to say, and this is why I said it's a complicated one. Like, I'm torn, you know, what does it do? Maybe if there's Palestinians in the area, it shows support for them. Maybe it makes people who aren't thinking of Gaza think of them. I don't know what it does, John. I know what harm it does if you're worried about the tidy towns, but then you try and put the tidy towns in the context of what's happening in Gaza. And this is where I find myself in a mental quagmire.
That's just why I said to myself yesterday, will I do this or will I not? And then when you do something, you're putting your head up, and next thing, you know, and you're coming across from an anti-Semitic or you're anti-Palestinian.
I don't think anyone can accuse you of either of those two things.
No.
That's not your motivation. Your motivation is simple. Your motivation is that what impact would this actually have on the wider scale of things? And there are still people that are dedicating their time to the tidy towns. And unfortunately in life, there are competing things. Some are incredibly serious, some less serious, but they do coexist. So no one's suggesting you're being anti-Palestine. I'm certainly not. Or pro-Israel or anti-Semite or whatever those phrases that we bandied about. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't know.
Even
the
people, Greg, the people that is on our group, there are people from Palestine. Some of them are doctors and nurses and stuff like that. And they can feel a bit uncomfortable seeing that on the walls, thinking maybe it's them, etc.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody might come on from the Palestinian group or...
Well, we don't know who's responsible for it, yeah.
Are you
saying that, you know, rather than spraying this wall, maybe spend half an hour a day there with a Palestinian flag or a placard or something, and then move on? That there are other ways that you can highlight this issue, perhaps even, you know, arguably more meaningful ways.
I've had conversations with the people from Palestine groups, you know, and they're very upset what's happening in their country, you know, but they need to sit down. The UN, they're not doing a lot. You know, we all know what's happening really. And the Americans, what are they doing? What has really been done to stop this genocide? Nothing really. I mean, what are we doing? Just words. People are starving. Imagine now somebody in Letterkenny was going to a food bank and been blew up. I mean, you know, what has to happen?
See, it's a catch-22 because if you paint over these, you're being seen as
that's true.
You're being seen as not endorsing the message, or to perhaps maybe being, you know, pro-Israel or whatever it might be. If you don't touch them, well, then obviously it some people will feel it lowers the visual benefits of the town. Let me put it to you like that. So it's a catch-22. Who wants to be pictured with a roller painting over "Stop the Genocide"? No one.
No one.
So what do you do?
Well, the council have spent thousands of pounds keeping the town clean and tidy in the county. They do a great job. You know, the tidy towns are written from all towns in Ireland, from all over the place, keeping the place clean. The backs of signs, I mean, you go down the town, it's the backs of signs everywhere. Just seems to be, you know. And I don't know if it's doing any good. Certainly it puts you in the visual thing and you think about it for a second. But there has to be another way.
Couple of views
to help
coming
these
in
people.
here. Come on, and it is on hoarding. Let's put it like that. A caller says, "Come on, John. All that hoarding is hardly going to win us the Tidy Towns contest." So I don't know what their judging criteria is. Do you know what actually might be interesting, Caroline? Not to say that this is a green light to do it, but to find out from the Tidy Towns how they score graffiti in this manner. You know, I'm not saying it means like, you know, let's spray paint everywhere, but it would be very interesting to see what the Tidy Towns view is on pro-Palestinian graffiti and if the town loses points over the head of it. So let us get clarity on that. I think that's an interesting question. Another, though, by contrast, says John is right. What's happening in Palestine is so wrong, but for graffiti's not going to do anything. But, you know, the thing is, John, everything's a mean to an end. Me and you now are again speaking about the terrible plight of the women, children and men of Gaza this morning because of this graffiti. And is that, if graffiti is to achieve anything, is it not that?
Absolutely.
That's the problem, you see.
Well, yeah.
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
All right, but you're saying you've made your point. Desist at this point and find a different way
of
doing
it. It's like protest. I mean, look, the last protest in Letterkenny, even though there's good crowds and everything, but there has to be another way of doing stuff without having to block the town and stuff like that. Can we go to the town parks maybe and up around there and maybe get a band or whatever?
But protest is about disruption.
It's upset.
It's about disruption. You know, how do I get your attention if I don't disrupt you? A caller says, I agree with the campaign to bring awareness, but honestly, the graffiti is horrible. So that's another person that's obviously very sympathetic to the plight of people in Gaza, but they don't like this graffiti. Listen, John, the one thing I will say to those that can get very nasty in comments and throw words around at other people when they express an opinion is desist from it.
I don't want to get into all that.
No, but desist from it because it achieves absolutely nothing.
Well, look,
have a conversation, talk
to
someone, tease
involved.
things out.
You're usually given a history lesson with all these people that think they know they're the warriors, you know, I call them. And they just go on with their big comments and everything. And here's a history. We all know the history of Gaza. It goes back as far as Abraham. We know all that. You know what I mean? We go back. Look, what they're doing is wrong. It's absolutely an abhorrence on the side of the face of the earth, what they're doing. But nothing's happening. Nobody's doing. The UN's weak. We don't have any leadership. You know, the Americans, sure, they've gone rogue.
But it's like climate change. You know, what difference does it make? What difference does it make if I stop burning
We're only a
turf?
small percentage. We're a small country, Greg, you know?
Yeah, but every fight, every victory started with a step somewhere. But I'm not, I literally don't know what I think. That's why I'm just teasing it out with you, John, as we go. I'm going to check with Tidy Towns to officially find out what their view is on this type of,
And thank you for highlighting. And have a great day.
Yeah, all right, John, take care. But it's so important.
Bless.
Thanks, John. It is so important, you know, that we learn we learn to have discourse, to have conversations. That just because John is concerned about that, he's not anti-Israel, he's not anti-Palestine. It's not that he doesn't care about what's happening there. It's that he wonders. He's wondering. He believes that this is, you know, lowering the tone of the town and not really achieving anything. You might disagree with him. You might disagree with his point of view. I just wish in social media spaces, though, we could go, you know what? I don't agree with you. And also, I don't know is a fantastic thing that you don't see on social media. That people sort of say, you know what? I'm not really sure. I don't know. My opinion's open on it. And that's the situation it is with me here. Listen, I'd do anything to stop the death of children in Gaza. You would say that, though. What would I do? Does the graffiti help? Does it get the conversation? Does it sort of show that maybe the people here don't agree with it? Or does it just achieve nothing and makes Letterkenny look poor? You know, I don't mean poor financially, by the way. I mean poor in terms of, you look poor, you look good, you look fantastic, right? Just to be absolutely clear. So I don't know, but I'm very interested in all your views out there. 08660 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number now. Right, okay, we have a nice wee prize, actually. We have a lovely prize and a lovely trip coming up, and if you'll indulge me, I'll just take a minute to mention these. The question is a very simple one, and I presume for most of you the answer is yes. Would you like to win 2 return flights from Belfast International Airport to any of their EasyJet destinations. So it could be sun and sea or city sights. Your next adventure could be just one lucky entry away. So we've teamed up with Belfast International Airport, and one lucky winner will have the chance to win 2 return flights from Belfast International Airport, as I mentioned, to any of the EasyJet's destinations. T's and C's apply as always. So if you want to enter, it couldn't be much more simpler. You head over to our socials, you follow, like, and share the social pages, and then you share the post for your chance to win. Winner will be announced on Highland socials on Monday, the 9th of June. Now, please be careful, because there are fakes accounts out there, and we will never ask you to click on any links in your DMs or anything like that there. We'll make it very clear who's won. We'll post a picture of their profile and contact them directly. It's amazing to, how quickly people exploit situations. I note that, obviously, I would try and keep people up to date through Highland socials, but my own socials as well, in terms of, road traffic collisions or what have you. And what I've noticed now, and I delete and block as soon as I can, that if I give someone an update or give my friends on Facebook an update on an incident on the roads, for an example, very quickly there's posts coming underneath saying, I actually got this on camera, click this link. And there's like 3 or 4 of them in like a jot. So obviously they're bots, it's not real people. But it just goes to show. And it's the same with competitions on social media. There are bots that very quickly then try and exploit that. But anyway, listen, the simple thing is you'll never click a link. We'll share the name of the winner on our socials and then contact them directly. And as I say, there'll be no link to click. So get on over to our socials. You could win those 2 tickets to any EasyJet destination out of Belfast International Airport. Right, and if you want to, by the way, follow me on, I would say be friends, but unfortunately I've maxed out on my friends. But Greg Hughes, I've got my own personal page is Greg Hughes. That's the one I update most. Greg Hughes and Highland Radio is mostly for the show stream and to stay in contact with people, of course. But if you want to follow me on my Greg Hughes page, I keep people up to date there as well. Right, Thursday 28th, but the first protocol is Highland Radio socials as well. It's just if you want to interact with me personally. On Thursday, the 28th of August, we are going to Riverdance 30. It's the new generation. It's the show you know and love, but obviously the people that started doing it 30 years ago are too old, so they've got new people doing it, but they're fantastic. And it's in the Gaiety Theatre in Dublin, and it's only a short anniversary tour, by the way, but it is supposed to be a boster. Our package is overnight accommodation, B&B, at the 4-star Grand Canal Hotel in the heart of Dublin. How much would that cost you? What about luxury coach travel from here in Donegal down to Dublin? We'll drop you at the door of the hotel. What about some great tickets for the show? How much would they set you back? And maybe you want to do a bit of shopping in Dublin. Well, we only have limited availability if you want to come with us on the show. And it's €249 per person sharing. So just chip out of that how much, accommodation in Dublin on the night of a big show would be. Your breakfast in the morning, how much that might be if you included that. If you wanted to get a luxury coach travel to and from, and also then tickets for the show. So I think you recognise as a package, you're doing pretty well there. €249 per person sharing. It's not until August 28th, but that's also only just around the corner. It might be a good anniversary present or birthday present or something. You know yourself. Sometimes we struggle to think, well, what can I get you? Maybe this might be a nice one. If you want any more information on it, you need to be kind of quick because for this package we've limited availability. 074 91 25,000. Give us a buzz and we'll get you through to Bronwyn and she'll sort you out. She'll get you tickets. Don't worry about that. And you can secure your spot now, and we'll work with you to make sure. That obviously we have to have payment in advance of it, but that it work with you to sort of maybe you don't have the money till the end of the month or something. We'll just take a deposit to secure your position and work with you from there. All right, well, this Wednesday's on the way. We're going to be talking hemochromatosis because it is Hemochromatosis Awareness Week. It's a bit of a mouthful, like everything medical it seems to be. And after that too, Chris is going to be in with business news. So all that on the way. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves, Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Summer Sounds at Harvey's Point. Every Wednesday from May the 21st until June the 25th, a magical evening of music, song and dance from some of Ireland's greatest stars. Gourmet dinner, the warmest of welcomes. Don't delay. Book today. harveyspoint.com or 074 972 2208. That magical evening on the shores of Loch Esk awaits.
Irish strawberry season is here. Let the fun begin. Pick up a punnet of Keeling's Irish strawberries in store today. Tasty, sweet, feel-good fruit. Fresh from our farm. Love that Keeling's feeling.
As part of National Food Waste Recycling Week, Donegal County Council, in partnership with Bryson Recycling and EnviroGrind Limited, will be having free compost giveaway events. Householders can collect free compost made from food and garden waste. Food waste recycling starter packs will also be available to support the use of the food waste recycling bin. Compost giveaway days take place on Wednesday, 4th of June, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Carndonagh Recycling Centre and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Milford Recycling Centre. Thursday, 5th of June, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Lahey Recycling Centre and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Stranala Recycling Centre. Householders should bring their own bags or container to collect the compost. Compost available while stocks last.
If you're fitting a new kitchen or replacing some tired appliances, now's the time with the Ben Sweeney Euronics Kitchen Bundle. Get a single oven and hob, integrated dishwasher and fridge freezer, wash machine and tumble dryer, all for just €2,000. Other kitchen bundles are available on request. Call us today or visit Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, in the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is
22 minutes past 11. Now, on this morning's Wellness Wednesday, we're going to talk to Brian Coyle about World Hemochromatosis Awareness Week. It takes place from the 1st of June to the 7th of June, so we're right in the middle of it now. The Irish Hemochromatosis Association is amplifying the conversation and educating the public on the symptoms of hemochromatosis to promote early diagnosis of Ireland's most common genetic disorder. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate your time.
Good morning, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So what is hemochromatosis?
Hemochromatosis is an iron overload in your blood, and it eventually affects your joints, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, etc. And it just leaves you, it just drains you.
And you can live with this for quite some time, can't you? Because there's a lot of crossover stuff here. How good are we at diagnosing it if we get ourselves in front of our GPs?
Well, the first thing you have to do, you've got to go for a test to see how your ferritin levels are. And if your ferritin levels come back and they're high, what you do then, you get a genetic test. This will let you know if you have the hemochromatosis gene.
A lot of people now in certain industries anyway might do a blood test as part of a job application. Generally speaking, is ferritin one of the elements of the blood that they examine?
No, it's not really. You've got to really ask for them to do a ferritin test.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realise about it. This is why we're having this awareness day.
For sure. So what might be indicators that this might be worth running past your GP, because it's incredibly common?
Yeah, the first of all would be fatigue and joint pain. Those would be the most two common ones that affected me.
And when you talk of fatigue, because it's kind of a catch-all, isn't it? How does the fatigue manifest itself with you?
Well, I was just tired. I was tired, and I had no drive, because I'm in business and I work for myself, and I just I just wanted to get the day in as quick as I could, because I'd lost my drive, Greg, if you understand me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do. I know exactly what you're on about, and people might just say it's how they are. Without sort of the interventions, and we'll talk about in the moment, is this something that would just batter along and you'd always feel sort of lethargic and have joint pains, or Would this have worsened without diagnosis, Brian?
No, this had worsened in me as time went on. It just got worse, and I got more tired, and the pains in my joints were getting worse. And so, how I discovered I got that I had it, I was doing a project and I had to get a medical for it. And the doctor said that, listen, your iron's a bit high. I would like you to come in and get it rechecked. Because how they discovered was that there was a doctor in Buncrana that had the same condition.
That's Dr. Paul Grant, isn't it?
Dr. Paul Grant, and they were, when he was diagnosed, then they were looking out for patients with high iron, and that's how it was discovered with me.
And we talked about it being a genetic condition. As it turns out, you've got siblings and children with hemochromatosis. I presume, particularly with the children, they may have had no symptoms at all. And this means that it can be kept an eye on, or how does that all work?
Yeah, well, it is. If a family member has it, the best thing to do is for all the family to get checked, and they can do the genetic test. If they do the genetic test and it comes back positive, you can be aware of it then, and you can get it in time. That it won't affect you if you get it in time.
All right. So ferritin is the bogeyman here in this situation. Your treatment is having blood drawn effectively 3 or 4 times a year. It's part of your life now.
That's right. Yeah. Every 3 months I go and get it checked, and if I need to get a venous section, I can get it. The other problem that we're having too is that a lot of doctor surgeries won't do it. Which means that you have to go to Letterkenny Hospital, and by the time you go to Letterkenny Hospital and wait around and get all this done, you're looking at the best part of a day.
Some people, though, if I'm not mistaken, do they not now go to the blood transfusion service? Do they accept this blood now?
It's only lately that the transfusion service are taking hemochromatosis blood.
So that could form part of it. In other words, rather than struggling with your GP, head to Dunlow, Donegal Town, Ballabafay, wherever they turn up. That also is an option.
Yeah, that's correct, Greg. That is an option. But some people can't go there. Especially people that have lived in England, that they can't use their blood for some reason.
Yeah, well. It's going back some time now to a scandal in Britain, and it's only gay people that were allowed to give blood until relatively recently as well, or those who've actually received a blood donation. There's a complication there as well, if I'm not mistaken. How much blood is drawn off you per session?
It's probably roughly around about half a litre of blood.
Okay, 2 pints odd. Is that right?
Yeah, half a litre. It's probably just over a pint.
Just over a pint. Okay, it's not huge then. It's
huge. But how I would put it is that once they draw the blood out, your body makes the blood again in 2 to 3 days. And it's like diluting orange. That I would put it. You take a bit out and you put some water in, and that's how it dilutes it down.
Okay. It's well worth getting this ferritin level checked. A lot of people, what they hear back from the GP or whatever is, we done your bloods and you're low on iron. This is the opposite. So if you do get the check, just out of interest, would high iron levels be flagged? In other words, would that? I think you said that was your first indicator that you needed to get your ferritin levels checked.
Yeah, but you have to ask for the
ferritin one. Okay.
Ferritin test. Not all blood tests contain the ferritin test.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, it couldn't be any more or simple than that. The message, I think, and hopefully, and we've talked in the past, Brian. Hopefully, we reach people again, and I don't want to be dramatic, but get their lives back. Because if you're feeling lethargic and tired, and you've got joint pain, it's going to drag you down. Like you're going to feel it. Like.
That's right. Yeah, and the main thing is getting it in time, Greg.
Yeah.
That's number one.
All right, go to the Irish Hemochromatosis Association's website and socials for more information. Brian, continued good health to you. Thank you.
Listen, thanks for that, Greg.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you very much indeed. Let's see what you think about the graffiti in Letterkenny. John and others are best served by contacting TDs who voted with the government re-Dáil vote, perhaps Marion Harkin, etc. Well, he's interested in the maintenance of Letterkenny, right? That's what he came on to talk about. But I understand what you're talking about, that he should direct. I take your point. John Wilkie's 100% correct. Graffiti on walls anywhere will do absolutely nothing to help the people of Palestine. I have as much sympathy for the people of Palestine as anyone else, but this graffiti is vandalism to no avail. Another, it's an absolute abhorrence. The graffiti is against the law and should be taken down. The people involved deserve to be arrested. And another, I am with the people of Gaza, but the town is ruined. Graffiti is an eyesore. You know, and there's a consistency, I suppose, to the messages that people recognise the tragedy, the genocide that's happening, but also at the same time, you know, maybe don't want to be faced with the graffiti. It's not pretty, right? The message is strong, but the graffiti, it's not pretty. No one's looking at it and going, that's adding to the town. It's certainly adding to a message or in a campaign, but it's not adding to Letterkenny. All right. Keep your views and comments coming in to 086 60 25,000.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Planning holidays, creating memories. Atlantic Travel on Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny bring you today's 9 till noon show. See atlantictravel.ie.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
Have you got your Euro Millions ticket yet? Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Looking for a new car today? Go to any Nissan dealer and say you want 4K your way. Nissan's new 4K Your Way deal lets you choose €4,000 towards financing a new Nissan or €4,000 as a trade-in bonus. This offer is available on 4 Nissan models, the Qashqai, Duke, X-Trail or Aria. So if you're looking for a 252 car today, don't delay. Get 4K your way. See nissan.ie for details. Nissan. Defy ordinary. Terms and conditions apply.
Fly EasyJet from City of Derry Airport to Edinburgh, Liverpool, or now from the 1st of September, Birmingham. Book now at easyjet.com. Get out there.
Brian McCormick Sports. New Hoka trainers in-store and online. Try the new Clifton 10, even softer as you take every stride. New range of colours for men and women. Different widths to suit your feet. Bondi 9. New colours for men and women. Take the Hoka challenge and see what fits you best. If you're road running or walking, maximise your comfort and support at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Dreaming of the perfect wedding? At Jackson's Hotel Ballybuffet, we make dreams come true. Our stunning fin suite with private entrance, sweeping staircase and terrace views offers a romantic setting for your special day. From intimate gatherings to grand celebrations, our dedicated team ensures every detail is flawless. Say I do at Jackson's Hotel, where love stories begin. Visit jacksonshotel.ie today.
They say time equals money, so spend your money where you spend your time. No matter what your preference is, Cooney's Home Interiors has something to suit every taste and budget. With our extensive range of home furnishing to fit every room and style, from mattresses and beds to rugs, mirrors and suites of furniture. Visit us in store today and see for yourself what Cooney's have to offer and let us help you make your dream home a reality. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Huge range, great prices.
All right, you welcome back to the programme. Wednesday means Chris Ashmore's in studio. He is the presenter of Highland Radio's Business Matters podcast. Hi, Chris. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Before we get to the subject matter of the podcast, and it's not a repeat, but before we get to the subject matter of the podcast, Kirchhoff Ireland. What does this company do? What are they planning?
Yeah, no, they've been in Letterkenny since 1981. They're part of a huge global automotive firm, Kirchhoff Automotive, who actually have employees in 11 countries and a turnover of more than €3 billion. So a big company. But here in Letterkenny, they make parts essentially for the motor industry, and their customers include Mercedes-Benz, Jaguar Land Rover and BMW. And they have just announced that with IDA support, they are spending in the region of €900,000 over the next 2 years on a training program, essentially upskilling the workforce here. So that is a vote of confidence in the workforce here in Donegal, that a not inconsiderable sum, and this money will be spent on, as they say, they're going to focus on innovation, sustainability, And not, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what digitalization in the automotive sector means. I'll put my hands up. But anyway, that's part of what they are doing. But
I think it means robots.
Who knows? But they're long established here, and a small cog in a, excuse the pun, in a big wheel.
Yeah,
but
I'll let you away
it's
with
great.
that one.
From here, Mercedes-Benz, Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW. Parts from Letterkenny.
We're not going to hit 1 million electric cars by 2030, but there is still interest in them and an increasing interest in Donegal.
Yeah, I may have heard during the week the latest car sales figures out, and the electric car sales they're actually up 45% on the same 5 months from last year. So that's quite an increase. And interestingly, petrol electric hybrid cars are now the most popular, be it petrol, diesel, pure electric, and there's different variations.
I think if people could get straight diesels, I think they might be top. I do speak to a lot of people that want a straight diesel.
Still 21%.
They're hard they're hard to get your hands on. I mean, Nissan, for an example, they don't
make them anymore.
Diesels.
Yeah.
And some of them are diesel hybrids, and people I just want a diesel. But listen, that's the way things. I was reading an article today about the Chinese developing effectively batteries and that you could get a scooter over in Japan, a 2-wheel scooter like a Vespa or something, not that brand, for 400 quid, right? Yeah. And the batteries are salt-based batteries. It's not actually salt. What's the
alcohol?
No, it's not. But anyway, it is effectively derived from sea salt. They're solid-state batteries, sea salt, and they charge 0 to 80% in like 10, 15 minutes. The problem is they're not just as good as the other batteries yet.
It'll happen.
It's a endless natural resource, right? But anyway, these scooters, you can get them for 450, 500 quid, and they're on these salt batteries, I'll say it in that way. And, there's a real battle in terms of, we're constantly moving towards a situation where battery life is improving, more sustainable, less heavy. This isn't it, because I think people think, right, that's electric cars and we're standing still. But there is other innovations coming the whole time. Speaking of travel, Lochfoyle, Lochswilly ferry services both up and running.
Yes, good to see both up and running. Now, actually, I know that the Swilly one wasn't operating because of the inclement weather there just a couple of days ago.
Unseasonal, terrible.
But yeah, they're up and running for the summer. So look, a great boost for those areas, Rathmullen to Buncrana and Greencastle to McGilligan, and frequent sailings throughout the day. And the Greencastle McGilligan route, by the way, particularly good website and gives you lots of ideas. If a lot of people might be going on for the first time, don't know much, maybe that northern coast up from McGilligan, whatever. So, well worth checking out, yeah.
Donegal's beautiful, Derry's beautiful too, but from the sea particularly. And just an add-on to that, if you don't mind, congratulations to the folks over at the Blue Ferry, good friends of the show, or of the station, sorry. Their new ferry had its maiden voyage, I think, at the weekend. And the other connection there is they very generously donated, as part of our birthday fundraising day, a go on the maiden voyage, so to speak. And I think that happened at the weekend, and the ferry looks absolutely beautiful as well. So it's all go on the high seas. Right. Bunk?
Bunk, yeah. Now, quite a few people may not have heard of Bunk. Revolut are probably the online bank that most people are familiar with. A more recent entrant to the Irish market. It's a Dutch headquartered online bank, Bunk. Now they've quadrupled their customer base in Ireland last year.
They went from 2 to 8.
Oh, the cynic. And they've doubled their deposits. And Ireland is actually now their third largest market for deposits. They do pay an instant deposit rate of 2.26%, which doesn't sound a lot, but if you have your money sitting in a lot of the traditional banks, you're getting diddly squat. So they operate in more than 30 European countries. I think it's fair to say some people, particularly maybe older people, wouldn't be too happy about the fact that it's very hard to get a human being. This is purely online. There is a chat function, but if you have an issue, don't go trying to ring somebody.
Staying in that space, I suppose, I got a letter from the Ulster Bank, I think agents for the Ulster Bank there a couple of days ago, stating that when my mortgage was transferred to AIB, that they messed up the interest rates or something along those lines, and that I was overpaying, and they deposited some money back into the mortgage account, which I thought was quite interesting. I wonder, is that just me, or did anyone else get that?
So another banking scandal in the making.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what it effectively did. It takes a month off the mortgage, which is insignificant, but, you know,
well, it was
that money in my pocket. Now, it's not AIB, it's whatever way they transferred it, but I'm not sure if I'm a unique case or if they made this mistake.
Phone in
phone in, maybe other people could. Right, let's bunk off to the next topic. Less wind in May.
Well, we all know May was a lovely month here in Donegal.
This is actually tied into my salty batteries, because apparently these are incredibly effective for power storage, you know.
Yes, well, because of the fact we had such a nice May and great weather, there was less wind. Less wind means less electricity generated through wind turbines. And the island of Ireland imported a record amount of electricity. We do have interconnectors with the UK, and almost 20% of our electricity came through interconnectors from the UK. So that was a record high because of the fact there wasn't enough wind. And the flip side of this, solar farms on the island of Ireland actually managed to generate more than 5% of the island's electricity.
I'm not going to wet myself with excitement at this point, but listen, the one resource that is most consistent is solar. Or maybe offshore wind. You know, I mean, the countryside, some might feel, is blighted by turbines that are stagnant or switched off because the wind's too strong. But still, hopefully we're storing that, and hopefully we have the infrastructure to get that power to people's homes, because we're seeing record numbers of outages lately. Right, okay. Bank of Ireland have a warning out for holiday makers.
Yes, look, it's a simple message. Essentially, a lot of people do book holiday accommodation online, and the scammers are out there. There's stories people have
Can I give a tip on that? Book your travel insurance as soon as you book your holiday. I think a lot of people book their holidays and then say, we'll do the travel insurance. It's not just, it's everything. It's even if something comes up in your life, make sure you get your travel insurance, or register it with Revolut if that's who provides your travel insurance, for an example. As soon as you book it, do your travel insurance, because there's lots of stuff can happen between when you book it and when you travel that's covered by travel insurance. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say they have issued a warning. It's the usual: be vigilant, stop, think, check before making any accommodation payments. There's stories people landing to properties that don't even exist. And of course, you see a lovely looking place online and it ticks all the boxes, and it doesn't even exist. So do check it out. Just on the insurance side of things, Greg, Ryanair, you can get a membership package with Ryanair. I wasn't aware of this till very recently. I think it costs about €79 a year. They send you emails regularly with special more discounts at short notice. And quite often it's another sort of 20% off. So very clever, as usual, from the marketing side of things from Ryanair, that they see they've seats not filled on so many flights, bung off the extra offer to the people who are members, and you get your travel insurance as on all their flights as part of that €79.
All right, different airline this time, Aer Lingus.
Yes, Willie Walsh, former Aer Lingus boss, who is now the Director General of the International Air Transport Association. Some potentially good news here. Crude oil prices are falling. There's a knock-on effect for kerosene, the fuel which is used to power the aircraft, and he is predicting that this tends to feed through to fares, so lower airfares could be on the way.
We'll be back with what's coming up on this week's pod after the break.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. From radio waves to ocean waves, Atlantic Travel, your cruise holiday experts. Visit atlantictravel.ie.
Doherty SuperValue Carndonna proudly supports local. Enjoy Norris potatoes and Donegal harvest potatoes. Gallagher's and Daniel Doherty's bread. Real local products supporting real local jobs. Thanks for shopping local and backing community producers with every basket at Doherty SuperValue Carndonna.
You know that guy I've been seeing? Yeah? Turns out my sister's been seeing him too.
Oh, really?
And I heard he's been seeing Siobhan at number 56. And Declan.
Your brother?
Yep.
Specsavers opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
I've got something to tell you. I've got half an hour with him this afternoon.
Specsavers, your care is our business.
Step out of the ordinary and into the new Lexus LBX, because this is the luxury compact SUV reimagined in every detail, where style, elegance and innovation define a new kind of driving experience. It's your world. Make it extraordinary. Experience the new LBX Hybrid at your Lexus retailer, available with a range of flexible payment options. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Your local dealer is Lexus Letterkenny.
Make great photos into beautiful gifts at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Different gift ideas include canvas prints, freestanding or ready-to-hang art blocks, and personalised photo books, perfect to mark any occasion. There's also jigsaws, calendars, mugs, and much more. For details, visit mcgees.ie. Turn your favourite moments into something truly special with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6.2 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Right, so the showers we saw spread across the region this morning are going to become well scattered this afternoon and will ease towards evening. Temperatures of 11 to 14 degrees. Obviously, it's going to be cooler the further northwest you go, in a moderate westerly breeze. Right, just to let you know that tomorrow we are broadcasting live from... Is that it? Is this mine, Caroline? It doesn't say what it is. Can we do that again? Please. Chris Ashmore, what's coming up in the podcast this week? Yes. 1 second. What's coming up in the podcast this week?
On the podcast this week, I've been speaking with the new CEO.
What is that? I don't know where. Go on, yeah.
The new CEO of Highland Radio, Sean Quinn.
We have a new CEO?
Yes.
I've never heard tell of this.
Well, he's been telling me a little bit about his background, largely in sales, his love of sport.
Proud Kilmacrennan man.
Proud Kilmacrennan man. Had aspirations maybe to be a professional footballer. Took a different tack. Did accountancy for a while. Got into management, worked in advertising, the newspaper sector, and has been here with Highland Radio as sales and marketing manager since 2019, and eagerly looking forward to the challenge of keeping people like you in your place over the next few years.
Should be fun.
Yeah, so we've...
Sorry, that's my fault. I thought you were finished with the introduction. Go ahead.
Well, in this clip, he's talking about his background in sales, the challenges ahead, developing skills, and also the importance of working and getting on with people.
It's like my father would have said that within a couple of years of me being able to speak, sales was where I was destined to go. Although I did start out in training as an accountant, but football was my first love, and I thought I would never have to work in my life because I'd be this professional football player. But I found out fairly quickly that doesn't just happen, and I had to go back to the books. I wasn't great at school, but went back after school. But at the time I was kind of 20, I was looking at other ways of how do I make more money. And I went into sales just shortly after my 20th birthday and have been in it since. So it's a considerable time. And there's been some tough times. It's not the easiest profession in the world because it's results driven. And I've had to, chop and change, redevelop. But what I've done is I've learned a lot of skills over the years, and they adapt when they say no, it means yes analogy into a sales process. But I'm very lucky. I've worked with some great people, and in my mid-20s, I managed to get into management, and I embraced that as well because I love working with people. I think I can help people and support people. And that's kind of been my motto from day one when I went into management.
There. Now, much more from Sean Quinn in this week's podcast, Chris.
Yes, and you can listen to that and a couple of other items of business news as well. I mentioned
Have you
Kirchhoff.
clicked publish? Is it
Yes,
ready to
it's
go?
on
It's
there.
there. It's
Yeah,
on the
it's
website.
there.
All right.
Yeah.
So listen to that at your leisure. You can download it or stream it from our website. It and hundreds of other podcasts. A huge resource there for anyone interested in business, starting a business, improving their business. There's so many tips and potholes and all kinds of info there that's going to be very useful, but also too for the general listener, you're listening to people involved in business in the Northwest and sometimes beyond. Chris, it's also on. Is it on Sunday? Are we Wednesday? Is
Yes.
Donegal on Sunday?
Now, Business Matters.
You're on at 6.
We are on at 6. So it could be a tight call. So could get bumped if there's extra time and penalties and things.
Exactly. With a podcast there, and it will be rescheduled.
And it'll be podcast episode since it all began.
Well, let's think about this. It's the third in the round robin, so it can't go to extra time. So it finishes on the day. So we either get 1 point, 2 point, or no point. So I think you're all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Unless Brendan Devaney starts to do the DL debate, we'll have to have a chat to Oisin about
That's why I'm talking to Oisin after this programme. Yes. By
all
the
right,
way,
brilliant. Anyway, one thing for absolute certain, and the show probably will go out at 6, but we'll let you know before then. The show is available right now for you to listen to that full interview with Kilmacrenna man Sean Quinn, the new CEO of Highland Radio. Chris, if people want to contact you?
best way is by email, so it's businessmatters@highlandradio.com. And you mentioned there about old and more recent podcasts. This is actually number 247.
I mean, that's a lot of content, and it's not. It's not what you separate the wheat from the wheat from the. What's that phrase? Anyway, it's all good stuff. That's what I'm saying. Chris, thanks very much indeed. I do appreciate it. Look forward to chatting to you next Wednesday. So we are actually, and I knew about it, but I'd forgotten about it. So I'm really excited. We're outside the studio tomorrow. And as you would know from our row Bs, generally speaking, the content is the same. But we are down at the Grand Central Letterkenny. It's for the grand opening of Donegal Horizons, opening doors and opening minds. And we're going to join them to celebrate the grand opening of the new centre. And it is a new beginning. And we're broadcasting there from 9. The official launch is at 10. So go down and attend the official launch, but we're going to be there from 9. I'll remind you tomorrow morning that you're more than welcome. There's going to be refreshments down at the Grand Central and special guests on the day, and us, me, Caroline, Joe, Shannon, all will be down there broadcasting the show. Come down and say hello. You have a competition here. We had a fantastic turnout up in Carndonagh. Let's see, can we get the people at Letterkenny out in such big numbers as well? Why are Letterkenny councillors not calling on the defacing of the town with this unsightly graffiti? Well, it's the public, I suppose, have their say. Hi, Greg. Writing Stop the Genocide on hoarding, however unartistically, is not vandalism. It can be painted over. Hearing people complain about this is depressing. I'd love to ask if Letterkenny Tidy Towns have any issue with all the ugly advertising now littering Letterkenny, and I have to drive past Donald Trump's face on a billboard every day on my way home to Kilmacrennan. Another, Greg, I agree with John. Graffiti on walls does nothing to help the poor people of Palestine. In fact, there's little we in Ireland can do. There's only one man who can stop this, and it's Donald Trump. He could use his influence to stop the Israelis from their brutality, but chooses not to. Another, graffiti tourists in Paris. They find it charming. Interesting, perhaps Tidy Towns County Council sponsor artists to facilitate stencil workshops or create beautiful murals. The graffiti is going to turn people against the Palestinian people. We have our own issues in this county too. Hi, Greg. It's not rocket science. The graffiti is terrible looking. Imagine if it was done in Donegal town, there'd be an uproar. It's not pro-Israel to be annoyed about our town being defaced. Another, totally agree with that man. I do feel sorry for these people, but why destroy the town, the graffiti, with graffiti and march or a flag? Another, there's a big difference between anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist. Many Jews are agreeing what is happening in Gaza too, or against what's happening in Gaza too. I agree with John. This type of graffiti really does nothing in the larger scheme of things, except maybe lose points in the tidy towns. People have their opinions, feelings, regardless of graffiti. As to unpleasant comments, sometimes people don't realise is that people are paid to post on some news sites as well. Well, we have 80% bots on our social media, mostly on X, but across all platforms in this country. So about 1 in 5 comments are from a legitimate person. Greg, at least the spray paint got the massacre in Gaza on Highland and not what other people want to. Ignore it, indeed. And I just want to say that it is a topic that we do discuss extensively on this show. A caller says, I also got a refund from Ulster Bank mortgage due to interest calculation error. Yeah, indeed, that's interesting because so did I. I wonder, are there many of us? A caller says, if you get the genetic testing for hemochromatosis and if you're diagnosed, it is a chronic illness and this will affect your mortgage going forward. I have hemochromatosis and my daughter will not be getting tested until she gets a mortgage. The diagnosis is the same as if you had cancer or MS if you were applying for a mortgage. That's really interesting information, and it actually talks to the seriousness with which the condition is looked at. But it's interesting information there that you have provided. I am a cancer patient and got a lot of blood transfusions because of the bone marrow transplant. I had no family matches, so I was on a World Bank donation for it and got a donor in Germany. I have hemochromatosis now. It's tough on my joints. I also go every 2 or 3 weeks to get it removed. It really lifts the joint pain and tiredness. I guess it was just one of those things. Greg, I don't think for 1 minute you're as naive as you're making out. RTE, when the government handed over the millions to RTE, became a government-run station. There's a lot of questions not allowed to be asked on RTE. Well, I like my comments to be sort of fact-based, if you know what I mean, and I didn't hear all of the interview. And what I'm referencing here is a comment I made earlier on that, you know, RTE ran the story yesterday about the 171 medical professionals writing a letter, unprecedented, seeking a meeting with the Minister for Health. The Minister for Health was on the show this morning and wasn't asked that question. I don't play games. I didn't hear all of the interview and I made that all very, very clear. I also can't presume, because I don't have the evidence, that they agreed not to ask that question. I quite clearly stated perhaps it was a journalistic oversight because I don't know and I can't jump to a conclusion. Okay, listen, thank you so much for listening to the show. If you watched it, really appreciate that too. We're back tomorrow morning at 9, as I said, out and about, but it's business as usual, except with some nice conversations from our friends at Horizons.